Okay, so we should now be streaming. This is just a session 0 for our Vampire 5th edition game. The idea being we're going to get Ambrose, Greg, Ed and Johannes to create their characters. We're going to go through that in stages. If at any point anyone needs anything clarifying or we need to stop and go over anything, please do shout out. I'd rather slow it down and go back over something than someone feel like they don't really understand what's going on. And there'll probably be bits that, like, Johannes will probably pull me up on because he probably knows the game better than me, to be perfectly honest. But the idea of this session 0 is for our sort of, I suppose, our sort of like a dark London game set in 2015 after the Inquisition's second purge in London. So the Second Inquisition, also known as Operation Antigen, have pretty much rumbled the fact that vampires exist. And unlike ye olden days, where they'd be sort of like busting out the religious robes, the crucifixes, the stakes and the hammers, sort of Peter Cushing style, they went about it in quite a sort of subtle means, and disguising things as a mix of terrorist attacks and just sort of plain like taking people out away from the public eye. Most of the vampires in London have been wiped out. London was formerly a bastion of the Camarilla, this sort of like monolithic main society of vampires. However, that effectively no longer exists in London. There's not enough vampires to maintain that society. So what does exist in London at the moment are basically younger vampires who are sort of like a bit weaker and maybe haven't come to the attention of Operation Antigen yet, or very cunning vampires who saw which way the wind was blowing and sort of dug themselves in and kept a discreet sort of low profile. But because they don't have the Camarilla, there's no like big kindred prince of London ruling over all vampires. London's become a sort of patchwork of little areas ruled by what are called landlords in sort of like kindred slang now, because basically you only have control over an area if A, you're powerful enough to hold it, and B, you can keep a low enough profile that Operation Antigen don't make you the next target. It's also made kindred very wary about things such as using public transport, and because London is one of the most CCTV filled cities like anywhere, it's become quite difficult to move about. Many vampires don't even believe that you should be able to use emails or anything like that because it's so insecure and it can be monitored. So we're going to start the game with you guys playing characters who have sort of embraced in the last 1 to 3 years. It's up to you guys whether it's 1, 2 or 3 years. It doesn't make a vast amount of difference. Basically, the reason for this is so that your characters can start the game like knowing what vampires are, you know how to feed, you know that certain things will provoke you into a frenzy, it'll bring this sort of like this bestial side of you out, you know how your disciplines, your powers work, etc. You know all the sort of general stuff, so we don't have to go through the whole like, oh my god, what is a vampire, how do I feed, that sort of shiz. But you're not old enough that you've been given like the full hundreds and thousands of years of clan history by your sire. You've also never been presented to the Camarilla, so if there was still a Camarilla and you were just wandering around, you'd be in trouble because you've not been presented. You're not legitimate as far as they're concerned, but they're not here. The only specification as well was that all of your sires are either confirmed dead or they're missing, presumed dead. And we're going to have you guys are a group of sort of younger kindred, like say 1 to 3 years old, and you're all sort of banding together for protection in these uncertain times. So as I've said, I've created in Roll20 a character sheet for each of you that'll just have your real name on it. You should be able to open that. So if you do that now, and there'll be a tab called Character Sheet, strangely enough. And you should see that as a lovely looking character sheet set out on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, so in order, I've got the character creation summary here for the book. We're going to go through it in order and we're going to find what we end up with, and we'll have a bit of a chat while we're doing that. Obviously feel free to talk amongst yourselves, because we want to get a group of vampires that can work together, because the point of the game is you're playing like a coterie or a group of vampires. But we're not adverse to like a bit of in-character friction or something like that, but obviously we want to keep it in character because we want a group that are going to work and move the game forwards. But before we start with that, to sort of turn things on its head a little bit, what I'm going to ask you guys to do first of all is I'm going to ask all of you to open another tab in your browser, hit that Google image search or whatever your image searcher of preference is. Other image searchers are available, and find a picture of what you think your character might look like. Now, you're not going to have to stick to this. You might gen your character and then go, oh, this picture doesn't really work, and you can get another one, that's fine. But what I'm going to ask you to do is just look through on an image search, find a picture that appeals to you or that says something to you that you think, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then once you've done that, that'll give you a sort of a bit of a springboard for creating your character, or at least sort of like a visual representation. Now, when you've done that, if you go into your character sheet, on the tab, you'll see that there's a button at the top of it, just to the right of where your name is, that says Edit. If you click on that, it allows you to upload a picture as an avatar for your character. So if you find a picture, like I said, there's no mad rush on this, but find yourself a picture, upload it to your character sheet, and we'll have a look. So I see Greg's gone for one. Nice, I see you've gone for the sort of like neo-noir sort of like punk vibe. Like that.
It doesn't quite cover what I have in mind, but it's a close approximation.
That's absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a token showing Greg onto the map. I'll set that so you can all see like the name. Now, obviously, when we change the name of the character sheet, that will change the name on the token.
Of course.
And what we're going to do is, as I say, we're going to build up like a relationship map between the player characters and whatever sort of subsidiary NPCs we have going.
I will have to be honest, that is one of the things I am most excited about in tonight's session. Like that concept of building that before the campaign even starts, that sounds just super intriguing.
Yeah, I love the idea of it, because it should one of the things I like about the latest edition is if we follow this through, you have sort of like your anchors, like your sort of your NPCs, which are like what link you to your humanity. So you come into being as a character with like a small stable of NPCs. So the idea should be, once we've done this relationship diagram, the game should almost run itself using that, and we're just playing through to see how these like different relationships and these antagonisms play out. Obviously there'll be other stuff in it, but the game gives you like a very sort of solid base to start from. It's not just like you get parachuted in to something I've entirely made and I'm like, right, there you go, well, let's crack on. So how's everyone else doing with their pictures? Like I said, there's no massive rush. Now, just to let you know, Ambrose, you don't have to find like pictures for all the villains you're going to like put in your character background. Not at this stage.
Well, if I've already found them,
then that would meet my expectations. Obviously, if anyone has any problems like uploading their pictures to their Roll20 character sheet, let me know and we can talk you through that.
Other than the fact that it's got watermarks on it.
It's fine.
Fine.
Okay, let's have a look at ads.
Credit to original artist and whatnot.
Indeed. Okay, so we've got another punk vibe going there. Lovely. So let's drag that across onto the background. So how are you doing with yours, Johannes?
I just uploaded it.
Oh, splendid. Nice. Let's drag that across. There we go, lovely. I was going to say I'm seeing a strong theme developing in this coterie, but maybe not so much for your character, Johannes, but...
Well, the thing is, you started out with the second hardest thing in character creation, which is the picture, the visual representation. The hardest is the name, so I presume that's next.
No, we're not going to worry too much about the names yet, because to be honest, and I have trouble coming up with names for characters. I'm a great proponent of just going like, I'm going to find a random name generator, click, that's what my character's called, boom. There we
Or
go.
picking from the names that the game gives you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, like I say, Scum and Villainy last night, big lists of names in it, and I was like, that'll do for a first name, that'll do for a last name, there we go.
Yeah, as well with me, because I don't have a nailed down concept yet.
Well, that's fine. Like I say, these images are just supposed to be like serve as like a starting off point and a source of inspiration. If you create your character and you're like, actually that picture doesn't work, we'll just pick a new one.
Yeah, I just realized that this guy, instead of being, I don't know, a math teacher, this guy is going to be a chav. So
That'll be interesting.
To be honest, the picture looks a bit like how I imagine like a sort of old vampiric version of like Hugh Laurie might look.
yeah, it's like I wish I had codeine.
Okay.
You wish you needed it.
Well, we've got Ambrose's character looking like he's just come off the set of Grease, the musical. So that's all good. Let's slap that on there. Okay, lovely. Right. So, what we're going to do now is we're just going to go through the character gen, basically. So, I'm going to open up my test character sheet so I can sort of work through this along with you. And I'm just literally going to go through the character creation summary. Now, I'm aware, I believe when we looked at it previously, Johannes, there's some like inaccuracies in the character creation summary.
Yeah, if you're looking at the physical book, highly likely that there's some stuff in there, but the PDF should be up to date.
Yeah, so we may have to do a bit of like flipping around, or like obviously like keep your eye at Johannes because you're more familiar with the game than me. If we come across any, we'll deal with them as we come across them.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing to do is to pick your core concept, and what that is that's just like if someone said to you like, describe your character in like a short sentence. That's what it'd be. So you might be like, I don't know. You might be like, I'm an aged punk rocker who now like wants to get back into the scene or whatever.
Yeah, I might be dead, but punk isn't.
That's it, exactly. Yeah. The safety pin through my nose says different.
Yeah, it doesn't even hurt now. Look. So I guess this is the part where we actually figure out the concepts, right? Because that's literally what the thing says. So
yeah, and you guys, like I say, please, because obviously you're going to be working together as a group.
Yeah.
As I say, you're a small group of kindred who've come together basically for security and safety in these very uncertain times for like the vampiric populace. So feel free. I'm almost going to sit back now and let you guys sort of talk amongst yourselves, because there's no group concept you'll come up with that I'm going to be like, no, that's terrible. What's it going to do to my game?
Well, Hopefully we don't take that as a challenge.
Well, feel free.
That feels like you're talking to yourself, Ambrose.
No.
And listen, if you drop in a floating city on like another city in one of my games and like destroying both of them, didn't phase me. I'm good.
I don't know how I would do that to London, but yeah.
But yeah, okay. So do any of you got? I'm going to throw into the prompts and I'll ask you questions. It's just hopefully to get you guys thinking. If you've not got an answer, there's no real stress about it. Like I say, the main aim of this is just to get characters we're all comfortable with. And when I run games, I tend to adopt the practice of, for the first 3 sessions, if there's something in your character that's like maybe not working as you want, we can tweak it a bit for the first few sessions. So if you go, I want to play like a combat badass because of the skills you've picked, when you actually play and you're like, oh, he's actually like crap in a fight, we can tweak that, because you won't work out how exactly your character works until you're actually playing them. So for the first 3 sessions, you've got a bit of leeway to do that, but from session 3 onwards, like, the characters are locked in. But does anyone have like a strong thought about what they might want their concept to be, or what sort of character they're interested in playing in?
I definitely want to play like an MMA fighter who's been turned into a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the main thing about them, but like the secondary thing about them, I'm kind of quite open to.
So you're sort of going more for like a sort of combat character, presumably.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Another way to look at this is you guys might, obviously your sires are going to be missing or like confirmed dead, but obviously at some point your sire, the person who turned you into a vampire, saw something, and it's quite a risky thing, like turning someone into a vampire. You've got to present them like their mistakes are your mistakes. So there must have been something about your character that your sire saw and thought, yeah, that person would be a good vampire, or they can be useful to me. So it might help to think about it from that perspective. What did your sire see in your character that made them want to create another vampire?
Yeah, so we have Ambrose's MMA guy, and I think Greg, did you have if I recall correctly, you had a couple of ideas?
I had a few ideas, so the general direction I want to aim for, but I am of course very open to changes to fit the coterie better, so to speak, is this underground party host who I think would have been turned into a vampire, mainly to act as cannon fodder for their sire to use. But this would be sort of a not completely legitimate business person who would also probably be able to provide a shelter for the group due to the establishments that he's operating.
Yeah, I had, as far as I mentioned in the chat last time, I kind of narrowed my things down to 2 concepts, one of which was the previous either absolutely in the know member of the Inquisition, or then an unknowing agent of the Inquisition. That was turned in the whole fracas when the guys with the boots started kicking the doors down. Someone would have nabbed this individual and taken them because, well, maybe information, maybe something else. But anyway, like a converted Inquisition asset.
So you're thinking that maybe your sire was sort of trying to get a bit ahead of the curve and was like, I need to know what's going on with this.
Yeah,
what better way than bring someone in?
Yeah, I was thinking
cool.
Maybe that was the like one of the first casualties, in that maybe this individual didn't really 100% know what they were doing, and maybe they found some stuff out that was not supposed to be found out, and then got tracked in turn and got whacked as a result.
Tracked and whacked.
Hmm?
Tracked and whacked.
Yeah,
I just like that
that's
phrasing.
that's on the side of the van. Of the exhibition.
So you said that was one of your potential concepts.
Yeah.
What was the other one you were thinking of?
The other one was a bit more, because that's like very focused on the vampire stuff. The other concept was maybe I don't exactly know all the details, but we can probably spoof a lot of the actual realities of, for example, the British Museum. Because the other idea was that maybe I could play a curator that runs like when the sun goes down, he does the stuff, and maybe a sort of some kind of maybe not really a professor, but like an educator maybe of history and that kind of thing that he does on the side, and then does the museum curation as well.
Okay, so Greg, can you remind me what was your concept again? I'm just sort of like noting them down roughly next to.
So I was thinking of once again. I was thinking of this underground rave DJ, whatever they are actually called. I'm sorry, I'm not versed in that.
I was going to say I can't claim any great sort of knowledge of underground raves, to be honest. But we've all seen Underworld. We know how it goes down.
Pretty much, yeah. So, like someone who hosts that sort of those sort of gatherings, and has his own club that could even be potentially shelter for the entire group of characters.
Nice. Okay, so how about you, Ed? What are you thinking?
So I was thinking, like, they would have been she'd have been turned roughly just after getting the uni degree, so like just out of student life, probably a punk rocker, and sort of a veterinarian, so kind of like a doctor if you squint hard enough. I mean, they're not humans anymore, so it's probably fine, right?
Exactly. Okay, there we go. So I've just noted those sort of like roughly on the background. Obviously, any of this is subject to change as we go along. It's just to give us an idea. So, working off what we've got at the moment. So we look. Like I say, I know we're going to be going through the character gen summary, but I'm just trying to like get a few ideas going before we get into this. So we've potentially got an underground rave DJ, like / club owner, an MMA fighter, a recent university graduate, sort of punk, who's been training to be a veterinarian, and we've potentially got either an ex-Inquisition agent or like a sort of night curator of the British Museum. So, although we don't need to sort of like write it down yet, just start sort of like thinking in your minds about what could have potentially brought these characters together. I mean, obviously we know sort of out of character that you're coming together because we're a group of people looking to play this game, and we know that in character there's a slight ready built-in justification, the fact that there's not many vampires left, certainly not many young vampires left, so you guys are sort of banding together for safety, but just sort of like keep thinking in your mind about like what roles you might see yourself occupying in this coterie. Okay, so we'll worry about names later on because, as Johanna said, that's often one of the most difficult things. So what we'll do now is we'll just start working our way through. So the first thing on the character creation summary, after the names and all of that malarkey, is to pick your clans. Now, I know I sort of put you guys up a rough description of them. Does anyone need a greater description of the vampiric clans that are available?
I don't need a description of the clans, but I just have a question.
Yes.
Apart from the like clan like Bane and like stuff like that, is there anything that like makes someone more act like a prototypical member of that clan? Like
not necessarily. The main the main reason people tend to act like stereotypical members of their clan is because they tend to have been embraced by someone who is a member of that clan and then sort of introduced into it. So like if you're the stereotypical like bourgeois, that they tend to be like fighters and sort of rough-nuts because those are the people they embrace, and they also have a natural propensity towards certain disciplines, certain vampiric powers that give them an edge in combat. But obviously part of the joy of like the sort of like this sort of fallen London background is that because you guys haven't been fully indoctrinated into all the ancient history of your clan and all that, you've pretty much been left to your own devices. We do have like a lot more wiggle room to sort of play with. Like there's no reason why someone couldn't play a member of a clan and not be stereotypical. In fact, it's probably more interesting if you're not a stereotypical member of a clan.
Right.
Also,
so like if
sorry, you go.
yeah, so if I'm like, say I was embraced by a Ventru, there's nothing that would make me suddenly become interested in like status and like boardroom meetings.
Literally you'll get your clan bane, and you'll like say you'll have a natural leaning towards certain types of vampiric powers.
Yeah.
But it, like say, the stereotypical Ventru is because that's who like Ventru tend to embrace. Now, if for some reason your sire saw like maybe to use your MMA fighter as an example, maybe your sire was like, oh, do you know what? I'm worried someone's going to move in my territory. I need someone who like can handle themselves in a dust up to like protect some stuff for me. He might have embraced you for that. And we don't. Sorry, go ahead, Jonas.
No, I was just going to say that there's one instance in the game that puts forward behavioral patterns based on the clans, and that is the compulsion bit. So when your beast rears its head, there is a chance that John could say, well, let's have a compulsion here instead of a whatever. So that means that you act on, or rather you get this like conditional thing whereby you need to do a thing because your blood compels you to act in a certain way, and until that condition is met, X is true. So for example, because it's on the top of my head right now, the La Sombra compulsion is ruthlessness, and that means like when you get that compulsion, you need to succeed in the thing that you just failed at, and until you do that, until you succeed at the very exact same thing you just screwed up, you'll get -3 to every other dice pool that you do, because you're razor focusing on the thing you just messed up, so you just go in hard because you need to get it
right.
And for the Ventru, I think that's they had a compulsion about basically
Dominance, I think.
authority. Yeah.
Okay, so over time, having a lot of compulsions might have a knock-on psychological effect, but there's nothing immediately inherent. Okay.
No.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
it's
like I say, over time you might find yourself leaning, like naturally because of compulsions, as Johannes was saying, towards certain sort of clan-based behaviours. But the rest of the time, there's nothing to say that you have to behave in a certain way because you are X clan.
Alright, cool, thanks.
Okay, so is everyone happy? Does everyone know what the clans are? Does anyone need a bit of a rundown of them?
I think I'm alright.
I think I'm good.
Okay, splendid. So Ambrose, what are you thinking of for a clan?
Okay, this was actually hard for me. I find it hard to narrow it down because I could see the character being so many different clans. Yeah, I was thinking. I don't know. At the moment I'm leaning towards Ventru.
Okay,
but,
I'll write Ventru down on the thing, but obviously all of this can be changed as we're sort of going along. It's just to give us a bit of a guide so we all know sort of what we're thinking at the minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so Greg, how about yourself?
I am thinking Tremere.
Oh, nice. Splendid. How about yourself, Ed?
I love me a Malkavian.
I can't argue. I love a Malkavian myself, man. Okay. And what about our ex-Inquisition museum curator?
I suppose I have like 3 different ones at the top of my head, because I literally have not been able to pick yet. So the ones that I had in mind were, as I mentioned before, La Sombra. Then there's Hecata, and well, yeah, I suppose let's go with those now, because I'm having trouble narrowing down the third one on my list. But
Okay,
yeah, let's put those down and see where we go.
Okay, so what we're gonna, and I apologise, you probably are gonna have to come up with some names here, guys. Not for yourselves, but we want to put your sires down on the relationship chart. Now, obviously, we know your sire's potentially dead, certainly missing. So, again, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is, if you can bring up your image search again, you don't have to come up with a name for your sire at the minute, but just find an image that sort of speaks to you and you think, yeah, that could be my sire. Do is I'll just make a character sheet with your name and then sire after it, so you can put the picture in there.
This is actually harder than the character itself.
Yeah. Well, the advantage, and this is why I wanted to do it as a session 0, because I appreciate some of this isn't particularly easy, but once we've done all of this, it's all there, it's all good to go. We don't have to stop the game sort of mid-session to go oh, who's your sire again? Because we'll have it.
This one I found easier.
I've got to admit, to be honest, if I was doing this, I would go in and I would type in obviously you don't have to do this, but how I'd do it is I'd go into Google image search, I'd type in a word that I thought described my character. So if I was a fighter, I might type in fighter, and then I'd just put the word vampire after it, and I'd just see what came up. That's probably how I'd do it, but obviously you guys do as you see fit.
Didn't even think about adding the word vampire in all my searches. That would have been sensible.
Well, it's sensible to a certain degree. However, you probably will have to wade through many pictures of sort of scantily clad sort of vampire women, which is always seems to be my problem whenever I'm looking for a vampire picture.
Yeah, so considering we are streaming this, how okay is it to use an actual face of someone from Google as opposed to an artwork, maybe?
I mean, if you can find it as a stock image, then they've presumably already given their permission for it to be used like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if it's on a sort of public image search, like Google image search, we're probably all right, because we're not sort of doing this for profit. We're not particularly saying this is actually the person. We're obviously making it clear that it's a fictional game we're playing. We're just using the pictures.
Especially now that you've actually said it.
There you go. Did you see how I subtly wove that in?
Okay. So how do we get these to you?
I've made a character sheet with called Greg Sire.
Oh, cool.
And if you just upload it to that, so I can see we've got Eds. So I'm just going to put that there. There we go. Lovely. Some sort of like professor wagging his finger.
Psychiatrist, I was thinking.
Nice. Oh.
Like, he is definitely going to be a stereotyped Malkavian.
That's fine. I'll put that just a little way behind your character. Okay, so we've got Greg's. Okay, that's fine. I'll just put that on. Oh, are you changing yours, Greg?
Just ran into a bit of a problem, but I'm uploading the same again.
Alright, okay, no problems.
So
Yeah.
no changes there.
Okay. Okay, so we've got Ambrose's sire as a sort of man wearing a very distinguished gentleman wearing a bowler hat. Splendid, that's what I like to see. I'm guessing from the picture your sire is a bit more of a stereotypical Ventru, potentially, than yourself. Since he looks like an Edwardian businessman.
Now I'm tempted to like not be a Ventru just because it makes that sire seem like weirder. But
And we've got Johannes' sire appears to be arguably the most evil looking of the bunch.
The guy who did not put any dots into subtlety.
my sire is standing in a pool of blood, so when I click on Johannes' sire, it better be really evil. Okay, that's pretty evil.
No. He's the vampire who sort of who sort of saw the film and interview with the vampire and went, I think they've got something.
That's me.
That's me. That'll do me for 100 years. Lovely. Okay. So.
And then he's like, why is the Inquisition tracking me down? I do not understand.
I don't know how they tracked me down in my castle up here on the hill. How did they get past Igor?
I put skulls on the poles just to keep these guys away.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that dossier in the Inquisition of pretty sure this guy's a vampire?
It's like literally.
I imagine they have like a chart that they give to every new recruit that's like, is this a vampire or just a goth? And they have like a flow chart.
They've got like a checklist like crushed velvet, check. Frilly shirt, check. Doesn't drink wine, check.
It's like a capture image search. Put all of these things which have vampires in, select them all.
Yeah, to prove you're not a vampire.
Okay, so let's get the first few dots down on the sheet. So we're going to be sorting out attributes. So that's your physical, social, and mental attributes as they're shown on your character sheet. Now you get to pick one attribute at 4, which is obviously your highest attribute. I think all the attributes are fairly self-explanatory, but obviously if anyone needs a bit more of a sort of clue about what they're going to be used for, just shout out. Obviously, let me know when you've all done that.
So 1 at 4?
Yeah, you get 1 at 4, yeah.
Done.
Okay. You get 3 attributes at level 3. You get 4 attributes at level 2. And you get 1 attribute at level 1. And obviously, as with previous editions of the game, the way the game tends to work in terms of roles is it tends to be an attribute plus a skill. So like Dex Brawl. your attributes represent your sort of like raw ability, whereas your skills are sort of like learned things or sort of honed behaviors. And obviously, let me know when you've all got your attributes done to your satisfaction. Like I say, you've got 3 sessions to sort of tweak them up and down a bit, so don't agonise over it too much. But this might be a good time to actually talk about this, because obviously I mentioned keep in mind, you know, what sort of role you might have in this coterie, in this group of vampires. So you might want to consider that and like chat amongst yourselves when it comes to picking your attributes. Because if you're like, oh, I'm going to be like the bruiser and like the protector of the group, you'll probably want some like decent physical stats. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, has anyone got any strong thoughts about like what sort of role they might have? I know Greg suggested that perhaps you might be the guy who has like the haven, like the building, effectively.
So I went all in on social skills, manipulation being the highest, charisma and composure both being at 3. And then the lost, that's a level 3, that's higher up, is wits.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Has anyone else got any thoughts about what sort of role they might want to take on in the group?
So, Ambrose, did you intend to go like full meathead?
Actually, not quite. I am gonna, like strength is gonna be my highest stat, so I am gonna be like, hopefully, a decent fighter. But like I noticed no one seemed to have like the role of like the tech person necessarily.
That was halfway where the Inquisition individual could go. But if you have an idea for that, please go ahead.
And also, there's no reason we can't have people with like overlapping interests.
Yeah, of
because
course.
Obviously. Yeah. 2 heads are better than 1. If you're both skilled in an area, you can both help each other in certain areas. So
so I had this idea that I just got this idea like really recently, but like because like my character could have like MMA as like something that they receive like formalized training, so I don't really need to think of them as like, I don't know, someone who got into a lot of street fights or had that sort of life. So I had this idea that they, like their day job is like they're a scam baiter who like one of those YouTubers that like stream them making
exactly. Twitch streamers.
I was going to say you're going to have to explain. You're going to have to explain the term scam bait to me.
So what this guy will do in his like day job is he'll stream on Twitch, where he calls up those people who like try to scam you with like tech support scams.
Oh yeah.
And he just like wastes their time essentially, so they can't actually scam anyone. And he just like he'll like pause, like turn off his microphone, and be like, guys, he seriously thinks I'm like an 80-year-old woman. And he's getting so angry. And
so
then,
you'll be like one of those people when someone rings up and they're like, oh hey, we believe you've had like a car accident in the last 5 years. You'll be like, oh yes, I have actually, and like string them along. Sort of
yeah, essentially. And I do that as like entertainment. To make a living.
Nice.
Yeah, I was thinking that was kind of like a fun package of like skills.
So with this idea, are you going to be someone who has like a sort of an online presence? Would it be fair to say?
Yes.
Which could be very interesting, because obviously we know that all the kindred are getting quite technology shy, because a lot of the kindred, certainly the older ones who don't really understand technology, as far as they're concerned, you touch a computer keyboard, like the Inquisition can like track the fact that you're a vampire and you're on a keyboard. Now obviously we know that like things don't actually work like that, but obviously if you're in like what you consider to be a private message board somewhere, be it talking about like actual vampire stuff, then you might be on more dodgy ground. But that could potentially be like an interesting area for sort of conflict and story.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. I was sort of thinking that I might have the role of sort of like part bruiser, part tech person.
Okay, that sounds cool to me. Okay, so Ed, how about your character? What do you see your character's role as being in the group? And like I said, this is all just sort of like spitballing ideas at the moment, so don't agonise over it too much.
I feel like trying to be, and I know this like from the rumors I've heard about playing with Ambrose, this might be hard, but I was trying to consider being like a calming
What?
and like almost like the sort of trying to push the coterie in sort of a more morally good direction.
Okay. So are you seeing yourself as like maybe like the moral compass of the group or something like that?
I mean, let's see how it pans out. It might turn out like we might come across someone like a, well, there goes all my humanity. Time to kill them. But
that might, with Ambrose, that might be a taxi ride. Like that. I've been on a taxi ride with him. The Mr. What was his name? Singh, was it?
Yeah,
Mr. Singh. Yeah.
Didn't I murder his family or something?
Yes. Afterwards.
Yes, because I had to clean it up.
So I was thinking, like,
This was in game, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes. For the NSA. Yes.
Yeah, for any actual Inquisition members listening,
Yes.
this was a game.
yeah,
Sorry, Ed, you were saying.
that's that soundtrack is beautiful. No, I was thinking quite charismatic, but not at all manipulative. So sort of almost the good cop, and like decent resolve and composure, just so that it's like trying to keep a control on some of the darker urges.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Sounds good. Okay, Johannes, how about yourself? What are you thinking?
There's a bunch of potential here for different things that I would find interesting. One of them also being some kind of tech stuff. It doesn't need to be the exact same thing as Ambrose does, because I had a very different idea in mind, that being like if we go with the Inquisition guy, then it would probably be intrusion, spy stuff, because you gather information. And if we went with the museum curator, I was thinking they might be doing like remote lectures at night to students. So kind of a streamer as well. But so that's one of the ideas. Then, of course, if we went with the Inquisition individual, we could bring in a bunch of violence along with that as well. Then, one of the things that we haven't really, and I don't like, this is very like specific, but a very, very subtle, sneaky individual is also a thing we could get in the group. And also the third or fourth one rather is, depending on like Greg, how you plan to put your things on the sheet. I could make a very strange individual as far as the vampiric powers go.
That's fair.
Because I don't know if Greg, you wanted to go in for the blood sorcery, but
based on what I have in mind for this character already, that wouldn't be his main focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, then, like, I could bring in the necromancy stuff if we end up going that way. I'm sorry about how vague my ideas are, because I have basically like a couple of parallel lines that I just can't or haven't been able to pick from yet. But sneaky, sorceress, security intrusion is basically the 3 S's.
Yeah,
I guess.
that is absolutely fine. Okay, so now we've had a bit of a chat about that, let's go on to a nice, easy bit of the character gen, and that's working out your health and your willpower. Your health is equal to your stamina plus 3, and you fill in the boxes from the left. You should be able to see your willpower and your health underneath your attributes on your character sheet.
So if it's a full square, if it's red, that means it's undamaged, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And then your willpower is your composure plus resolve.
Well, that was easy.
And obviously, once you put that in, underneath where your willpower is, there's also a box that says max willpower. So, like, make that the same number. Because obviously, as you spend your willpower, it might decrease. So you need to know what your maximum is, for like when you regain it. And likewise, there's a box for like max health, which you should fill in as well. Because, you know, should the unthinkable happen and you get into any sort of physical violence, your health may decrease.
Oh no.
I know, the very idea.
Not the health.
That's it.
That's where I
Not
keep
in
my
the
life.
health! Not in the health!
So you scream when someone beats you up. Not my health.
Okay, so if everyone's done that, next we're going to go on to picking skills. Now, before you start putting the dots down, you have a choice to make. There's 3 different sort of distributions of skill dots you can have. So you can either be and you pick this, you can either be a jack of all trades, which means you've got loads of skills, but none of them are very high level. You can be balanced, you know, you've got a few at high level, a few at low level, quite a few in the middle. Or you can be a specialist where you've got like one like super laser focused expert skill and a few like supporting skills, but most of the others are fairly low. So it's up to you guys which one of those you want to go for. And I'll just go and I'll just ask you which one you want to be. Well, I'll just shout out what spread you get. So is there anyone who wants to be a jack of all trades?
Maybe.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what the dots are for jack of all trades. So if you are a jack of all trades, you have 1 skill at level 3, 8 skills at level 2, and 10 skills at level 1.
Okay.
If you want to be balanced, you have 3 skills at level 3, 5 skills at level 2, and 7 skills at level 1. If you want to be a specialist, you have 1 skill at level 4, 3 skills at level 3, 3 skills at level 2, and 3 skills at level 1. So feel free to pick whichever of those distribution schemes you prefer, and then allocate your dots as you see fit.
I will go for the balanced distribution.
Yeah, if you're not sure, the balanced distribution is a good one to start with, because it gives you a couple of like things that you're pretty good at, but you've also got a bit of more of a general spread. Whereas the specialist is like, if you've decided like, yes, I want to be like the computers guy, you go for the specialist.
I went for specialist just because, I want to absolutely be the punchy people in the face guy.
I'm guessing you're starting off with a fairly respectable health score then, if that's the case.
Yeah. I have 6 health, so
That's pretty good. Okay, I'll start doing my first flip through in the book. Okay, so let me know once you've got your skills jotted down, guys, and we'll move on to the next bit. I don't want to rush anybody. Like I said, we've got plenty of time.
Yeah, I think we're going with the X-Wing Inquisition guy because that's where I have apparently more ideas. So
That's cool.
Just gonna
Absolutely
go with
fine with
that.
that. Okay, so if you've got your skills down, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick some specialities, and these represent a particular expertise in one aspect of a skill. So if your speciality is appropriate to like a test, so let's say you've got a computer speciality in a technology speciality in like hacking, and you're doing some hacking, you would get an extra dice above what you would normally get. But if you're doing something else with the computer, you wouldn't get that extra dice. Okay, so if any of you have academics, craft, performance, or science, you get to have a free speciality in that. Now, there's some examples in the book that I can shout out if anyone needs to know any specific ones, but you've got a fair amount of leeway when it comes to specialities, although, like I say, they are a very sort of specialised knowledge. So if you're going for something like, performance, you could maybe take like singing or modern dance as a speciality.
So how many of these specialties do we have in the end? Just one at start, or?
Okay, so you'll get, if you've got any dots in academics, craft, performance, or science, you will have a speciality in those. After we've done that, you also get to pick a free speciality in any of your skills, and then you will probably get a couple of others based on your clan. But that you'll only have like a handful of them. I don't know if do any of you have academics, craft, performance, or science?
I have craft and I have performance.
I think I've accidentally got all of them.
Splendid. Well, are you guys happy coming up with your own specialities, or do you need me to like give you some examples out of the book?
So for science and academics, can I just pick, essentially fields of study, like psychology, exactly. Or okay.
So to give you an example, if I can find the thing in here, because they wrote them in a weird order. I say weird, I mean the order they're on the sheet. Okay, so the specialities it lists for academics are architecture, English literature, history of art, history, like a specific field or period, journalism, philosophy, research, teaching, theology, that sort of stuff. Then for science, it lists obviously like astronomy, biology, chemistry, demolitions, bizarrely enough, engineering, genetics, geology, mathematics, and physics. Although I'd be quite happy if you wanted to pick other fields of scientific endeavour. Those are just the examples out of the book.
Would psychology be a good one under science? Because I could see that being kind of weird, because it might come under insight or something.
It's probably not 100% accurate to real life, but I'm happy for you to take psychology as a speciality for that. I would say if you're taking it as science, like you say, you probably approach it from maybe a slightly more sort of cerebral sort of point of view.
All right.
Okay. So, sorry, go ahead.
And performance was one, did you say?
Yes, performance is one. I'll tell you what I'll give you the examples.
I'll just put like streaming for that one. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine. So if for some reason you need to make a roll that relies on streaming, you will get an extra dot.
I bet we'll have to do a lot of that in this game.
Yeah. You know those vampires on the net 24/7, Twitch, streaming, all day, every day. Well, all night, every night. Oh.
Hello, my V peeps.
That's it. Welcome to the blood net. Okay, so once you've got those specialities down, everyone gets to pick one free speciality. This can be in any skill that you have at least one dot in.
What have I done?
Obviously, if anyone needs some examples for a particular skill, just shout out what the skill is, and I'll quite happily look at the book and give you some examples.
Yeah. So brawl, because I assume I can't just put MMA there.
Well, I'll tell you what it says. You might be able to. I'll tell you what it says in here. So, yeah, you can put MMA in there.
Okay.
I mean, or if you want to be a bit more a bit more general, you could put sporting combat is one of the suggested ones. But if you want to go specifically MMA, you can do that.
Yeah. Would that...
Just a very important thing here. So the idea with the specialities is that they don't apply always. So if
Right.
your brawling thing is that you do MMA, then having MMA as a specialty is just one more dot to your brawl, which is not the intent in the design. But
if you're going to take MMA as a speciality, I would say that's only going to apply if you're like actually participating in like something that's like an MMA tournament or something like that.
Rules.
Yeah, you wouldn't just be able to like every time you're going, well, I'm using like my MMA training, I want the speciality. But if someone like organise, that's why I suggested like sporting combat might be a good one, because then if someone's like organise, like even if it's just like some vampires like organise like an underground like fight club dealio, you can be like, oh well, this is like an arena now, it's not just like a street brawl, so you can get your speciality.
So can I get some examples for brawl then?
Yeah, so I have it open here. So
go for it.
Animals, because if you want to punch a horse, I guess you're a terrible being.
Thing I'm gonna do.
I can't see the veterinarian student approving.
Yeah, yeah, that's not the way we want to go. So
that's our chronicle tenants. No, don't fuck with horses.
Yeah. No fictional animals were harmed during the production of this game.
So then the second example is armed mortals. So like if someone comes at you with a knife or a gun, then bar fights, grappling, kindred, so that you know how to fight vampires specifically. Sporting combat, unarmed mortals, so if you meet Bruce Lee, and then werewolves, because that's a thing, and then while in protean beast form, so if you have protein, which you don't, so
so werewolves, am I going to fight a lot of werewolves with my bare hands?
Well, all I will say in that regard is I'm not planning on throwing a load of werewolves at you because you're like in the middle of London, and you can bet if like the Inquisition have spotted vampires, like werewolves are an order of magnitude easier to spot, harder to deal with, but
you can spot them by the American accent that they have.
Yeah. Also, you just got to look for their eyebrows growing close together and like the sign of a pentagram on their hands. So.
Does the Inquisition know about all the other supernaturals? Because I imagine
it's deliberately not made clear in the book, because obviously the focus of the book is vampires. Now, so that's what I'm going to start as, so that they know about vampires. They might have an inkling other supernaturals exist, but they don't know as much about them because they're in the cities and vampires tend to rule the cities. If during our campaign, like the Inquisition are exposed by whatever means to other supernaturals, they might start looking into those and they might start expanding their knowledge. But that will be something that will happen in game. Although if you do take fighting werewolves as like a speciality, there will be some werewolves turn up at some point, because part of the thing about specialities as well is if you take them, I know you're obviously at least somewhat interested in that. So if you go like, I want to like duke it out bare fist style with like some werewolves, I'm like, I'll put some werewolves in for you, that's fine.
My specialty is fighting Cain.
Raising Cain?
Wow. Oh, wow.
I went with grappling because I could see like, that's more applicable than just like MMA fights, but I could see like that being something specifically that they...
Yeah. Okay, how's everyone else coming on with their specialities? You picked some, Greg?
Yes.
What have you gone for?
So I went for for a specialty in the style of music that he plays. Also, for performance, I picked light show as the additional free specialty.
Okay.
So to reinforce that theme, and then for craft, he's going to be proficient in doing maintenance on his sound systems.
Nice. Okay. Sounds good.
It may or may not be very useful for the party, but I think it suits the character, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Ed, how about yourself? How are you doing with your massive amounts of specialities?
So, she is very good at philosophy as an academic. She's apparently got some hobbies of painting and singing, student life. occasionally just do random stuff. For her science, she's especially good at biology. Surprising for a vet. And like all good students, she has a specialty in moving silently in the morning
Yeah.
when people are gone.
Doing that walk of shame in the early morning, I understand. Okay, sounds good. How about yourself, Johannes?
Yeah, I'm sketching them out on paper before I put them on the sheet, but yeah.
Absolutely fine.
Getting there.
What are you sort of thinking at the minute, if you don't mind me asking?
So, I think we're going for a kind of a special ops guy. So probably MI5 or something to that effect, and the accompanying like a bit of violence, a bit of the sort of craft, as they say. Stealth, larceny, that sort of thing, streetwise maybe, and then we're gonna sort of put the sprinkles of death magic on top, because I think we're going with Lasombra, and
Nice.
we're going with Oblivion. So
you would have to go for the clan. That means I've got to open another book.
yeah. But I did get you that. Well, I didn't get you that, but yeah. So
To be fair, you did get me the core book, so I'm really not complaining.
Okay, well, yeah.
I'm really not complaining. Granted, that did lead to me like buying another like 4 books afterwards, but
yeah. Well, it's not. I just facilitate these things.
That's it exactly. Yeah, the core book was like the entry book.
Yeah, that was the free one.
First one's free.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've got specialities. The next thing we're going to come to is disciplines. Now, this is determined by your clan. So I'm just going to flick to the clan bit of the book. Okay, so Ambrose, what clan were you going for again? Remind me. Ventru,
I'm thinking Ventru at this time.
Okay, no problems. You have to forgive the book flipping I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so Ventru. Okay, so as a Ventru, you have access to the disciplines Dominate, also overpowering people's will, Fortitude, physical toughness, and Presence, sort of amplifying your force of personality. So we're not going to go specifically into like the discipline powers just yet. We'll do that in a second. So basically you need to put 2 dots in one of those disciplines and 1 dot in a second.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2 points in Fortitude, and so Presence just draws people to you, right?
But Presence can draw people toward you. You can use it to like terrify people. You can use it to get people to like hang on your every word.
It's emotional manipulation, and there's a power in there to basically enslave someone if you bite them.
If you think of like Dominate and Presence, they're like 2 sides of the same coin. Dominate is like the sort of like the blunt hammer blow where you're like, I've literally overwhelmed you, you are going to do this. Whereas Presence is like, I'm going to make you think that you've always wanted to do this and you want to do this to like help me out.
Okay, I think I might go with Dominate.
Okay. And Greg, you were thinking of going for Tremere.
Tremere.
Okay. Let's have a look at those crafty Tremere. Okay, Tremere. So, for your disciplines, you are looking at Auspex, which is like perceiving auras, enhancing your senses, etc. Blood sorcery, we all know what that is. It's blood magic. And Dominate, similar to the Ventru, it's sort of overwhelming people with like your direct force of will.
I'll go for Dominate and Blood Sorcery.
Okay, so are you going 2 dots in Dominate, 1 in Blood Sorcery, or are you going the other way around? Okay, that's cool. So you should see like a bit further down in your character, there's a space where you can like, add your disciplines in.
And done.
Okay, lovely. And let's see what we've got for the Malkavians. for Ed. Okay, so the Malkavians also have access to Auspex, heightening senses, perceiving auras, etc. They also have access to Dominate, which we've discussed a couple of times, and Obfuscate, which allows you to veil your presence from others, disappear from view, sort of sneaky sort of stuff.
Okay.
And you get to put 2 dots in one of those and 1 dot in a second.
So I think I'm going to put 2 dots in Obfuscate and then 1 dot in Auspex.
Okay, that is cool. Now I'm going to assume that you've got the Lasombra stuff in front of you, Johannes.
Yep. So the Lasombra have, guess what? Dominate. So we could be the
Dominate posse.
Yeah, the enslavement group boys, I guess. So they have Dominate, they have Potence, which is breaking things with your hands, whether those are people or objects, or like jumping around, climbing sheer surfaces by just like punching holes and like, going up like a boss.
Punching holes in a boss.
Yep. And then they have Oblivion, which is channeling the hereafter for nefarious ends, and it is not good for the user or anyone else. It is conjuring the shadows from the afterlife to do various bad things. Yeah,
that pretty much covers it. So what are you thinking of in terms of your dot allocation?
2 Oblivion, please, and 1 Potence.
I understand.
All about
Okay, now there is another option available to you guys, which I'm going to float out there. You don't have to take it. Now, if you wish, you can choose to be Caitiff, which is clanless. So for whatever reason, the sort of the imprint of your clan has not taken hold. So if you choose to be Caitiff, you would not be Ventru or Malkavian, you would be clanless. Now, if you choose to be Caitiff, you can choose any 2 disciplines, and again you get 2 dots in one and 1 dot in the second. Now obviously within sort of sensible limits, so no sort of like, oh, I'm going to take blood sorcery and I'm going to take like necromancy. But if you want to be Caitiff, it does give you more flexibility with which disciplines you choose. So I don't know if that appeals to anybody.
I think I'm going with the pure blood myself.
Okay.
Same.
Okay, splendid.
It depends whether the powers for Obfuscate will work for the character, but maybe.
Yep. Right, now, do people want to pick their discipline powers now, or would you prefer we come back to it after we've done the rest of the stuff? I'm happy with either. What do people want to do?
My preference would be for going back to it later.
Yeah, I kind of want to do the basics and then do the advanced bits afterwards.
That's fair.
That is absolutely fine. So we'll move on to the next bit, which is picking your predator type. Now, if you scroll back up to the top of your sheet, you'll see just to the right of where your concept is, it says predator. And you basically, this is to describe how during the course of your nightly unlife, how you tend to hunt. So I'll give you a quick rundown of them. There is alley cat. You're a combative assault feeder. You stalk, overpower, and drink from whoever you want. There is a bagger. You steal, buy, or otherwise procure cold blood rather than feed on the living. There is a blood leech. You drink from other vampires rather than by feeding on mortals. There is cleaver. You feed covertly from your or someone else's mortal family and friends with who you still maintain ties. Consensualist. You never feed from someone against their will. Farmer. You only feed from animals, but that doesn't mean that like the hunger tends to be constantly gnawing away at you, because animal blood does not hit that V spot like the mortal blood does. There is Osiris. You're like a celebrity. You have like a cult of personality, and you use that to gain blood.
That's me.
Feel free to stick it down. There is Sandman. You feed on people who are asleep or otherwise incapacitated. Scene Queen. You're familiar and entrenched in a certain subculture, and you feed within that subculture. And finally, there is Siren. You feed exclusively during or while feigning sex. Now, these give you like some specialities and some like additional bits and pieces. So I'll give you a few moments to think about it, and then I'll just go through and ask each of you which one you're going for, and then I'll tell you what little extra bits and bobs you get. You may want to discuss this with the other players, because obviously you're all going to have to feed at some point. And obviously, if you're all like, oh, we all just go out and like beat people over the heads and drink blood, that's just going to be a very different coterie.
Kane.
Yeah,
So-
basically.
Does this imply this is the only way we feed?
No, it's not.
or
It's not the
just-
only way you feed, but basically during the course, 'cause obviously we're not going to play through every time you feed, because 9 times out of 10, nothing interesting happens, nothing goes wrong. You go out, you feed, you come back, happy days. So this is just the normal way you prefer to feed, like
Okay.
night to night. There's no reason, like if you're an alley cat and you normally just like beat a homeless person over the head and go like, right, I'm feeding off you. There's no reason you can't feed off someone in another way. It's just that's how you prefer to in your normal sort of day to day.
All right.
Okay, so has anyone picked one?
I am definitely going for Osiris, because having that sort of personal entourage to be polite about it, I think fits the character perfectly.
Okay, splendid. So I'll tell you what extra bits you get for Osiris. You can choose either to have a speciality in occult, a specific occult tradition like Hermeticism or something like that, or you can go for a speciality in performance, which is a specific entertainment field.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to go for the entertainment field, and just wiggle the free specialty I took earlier around
that's fine.
to a different skill.
Okay,
I'll get back to you on that.
absolutely fine, not a problem. You also gain 1 dot of either blood sorcery or presence. It's up to you which.
I think I would like to go for presence.
Okay.
Presence is good. Even like all the like 1 dot things are really good in this game.
Yeah, to be honest, my main problem when sort of playing this version of Vampire is like all of the discipline powers are like really good.
Yeah.
Like even the low level ones are good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've not done backgrounds yet, so you might just want to note this and use it later. But when we talk about backgrounds, you gain an additional 3 dots that you can split between fame and herd.
Where does this go on the character sheet?
Backgrounds.
I think there's a tab at the top for like.
If you go into Chronicle instead of Core, it has a bit of background.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
Like I say, so you've got an extra 3 dots, but they have to be split between fame and herd.
Perfect. Okay.
And
fame
also,
and herd.
however, you do get some flaws from this. So again,
give me 1 sec to make a note of this.
no,
Sorry.
no problem at all. No problem at all. Take your time.
Flows, yes.
Okay, so for flaws, you have an additional 2 dots of flaws beyond anything else you choose to take, and they have to be split either between the flaw enemies or mythic. So you've either got some sort of weird like supernatural flaws, so like being repelled by crosses would be like a mythic flaw, or you've made some enemies in your time as like a celebrity.
2 points.
Rival DJ.
Yeah, 2
Rival
dots.
DJ.
That may be part of it.
Obviously, you can shift these around later when we sort of come to do the backgrounds, but that's what you get. So, Ambrose, what about yourself?
Thank
Have
you.
picked one? No problems.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with Scene Queen.
Scene
Which-
Queen. Okay.
Yeah, and I was thinking that the scene that they like know very well is like gym culture or like gyms
Oh.
and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
that
that
feels
works.
super dark.
Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you what extra bits and bobs you get for Scene Queen. Okay, so you get to pick one of the following specialities. You can either have etiquette, related to your specific scene, leadership, related to your specific scene, or streetwise, related to your specific scene.
Ooh, that's
so,
nice.
so I have streetwise, but I don't have the other two. And would etiquette fit more for like a gym, or should I go with street?
Well, streetwise might be like like the best gyms to go to. You can always find a gym wherever you are. Whereas etiquette would be knowing like how to behave when you're actually in those gyms and like making
Also-
a good impression.
Yeah, just to note, if you would gain a specialty in a skill that you don't have, you gain the first dot instead of that specialty. So
Oh, okay. I might just gain etiquette because I can imagine like he knows things like, yeah, like you don't grab like 4 different sets of weights and sit in the corner and
Yeah.
take 12-minute breaks in between each
Yeah,
set.
'cause you're an
That's
asshole.
really annoying.
Oh my god, that's what I've been doing wrong all these years, Ambrose.
yeah,
Oh my god.
and when your
You're the
bro
asshole.
asks you, you will spot for him because that's just what you do.
It's just basic etiquette, bro.
Okay, so you also gain 1 dot of dominate or presence.
Okay. Oh, okay. So the two. Huh. Okay. I was gonna make a note. Dominate or presence. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I say, anything you're not sure about at the minute, just make a note and then you can slot them in later. Okay, you gain the 1 dot advantage fame because you're like well known in your particular scene.
So. Fame.
You also gain the 1 dot contact advantage, so you know someone in your scene who you can rely on. Now you do gain a flaw, and it's one of the following. So you can either gain the 1 dot flaw influence disliked. So that's like obviously the positive side of influence is like people know you, they get on well with you, you can use that to benefit you. Disliked means like there's some people who've got beef with you. Or you can gain the feeding flaw 1 dot, prey exclusion, and that's a different subculture than yours. So there'll be a certain subculture of people you will not want to feed on.
Vegans.
Okay. Okay. So so I pick like for disliked, I can pick like a certain subculture that doesn't like me.
Well, no. If you pick disliked, it means that you've got like a low level of dislike outside your subculture. So people who are like into gyms and all that fitness and whatever will be like, yeah, he's a great guy, yeah. Whereas people outside that will be like, oh, he's just one of them like meatheads who like gives gyms a bad name and stuff like that. So it's specifically you have like a low level of dislike by people who aren't into the culture that you're into.
Okay. And prey exclusion.
Yeah,
would that mean I can't?
You pick a subculture outside yours.
Okay, so because the Ventrue already have sort of like a prey exclusion thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's their bane. So
Yep.
yeah.
This
Although
is on top of that.
Okay.
But obviously, it's only a specific sort of subculture. So you might be like, I can feed on anyone, but like, I don't like ravers. I'm not feeding on ravers.
Yeah, I don't eat anyone who has dark hair and no cops. Like that's.
Yeah.
Talk about a picky eater.
So, yeah, can I say prey exclusion? And it has to be. Does it have to be a subculture? Can I say
it
like?
has to be a subculture, yeah.
Okay. What's the worst, most unathletic subculture that there is?
I was thinking the like maybe a rival thing. So if yours is if we define yours as like bodybuilding or whatever, and then we have the CrossFit guys, and you just hate each other.
Shots fired.
or if you want to go very stereotypical, you could be like, I don't feed on nerds.
Okay, I'm going to go with dislikes.
Okay. So just make a note you've got the one dot floor disliked outside your subculture.
Oh man, that means we all dislike it.
Oh, this is going to be so good.
Until I get you all in the gym.
That's it. Until he gets you like pumping those weights, get them
Wait.
reps going.
Oh boy.
Now that's a question. Can you like increase muscle mass as a vampire?
Not in like real terms, but magically, yes. So like
Okay.
you will still be a scrawny ass dude.
My gains.
Well, yeah,
No.
you will gain in the mind.
This is the worst thing about being a vampire. Not that I have to prey upon people.
At the
but
same
I
time, I
cannot
don't think
continue.
they will decay either.
Yeah. Okay, so Ad, what about yourself? What are you thinking?
Oh, it's kind of a coin flip between Bagger and Farmer, because both aren't really feeding on people. I think it's probably going to be Bagger. I'm going to be a good vet who doesn't kill all the animals for their blood.
Okay, that's fine. So, jot down Bagger on your sheet. Obviously, if people want to change these or tweak these later, we can do. Okay, so for Bagger, you gain either a speciality larceny, lockpicking, or streetwise black market.
Streetwise to get a dot.
Okay, you gain 1 dot of obfuscate.
Cool.
You gain the 2-point feeding merit, Iron Gullet, which basically means you can stomach like really dank cold blood, whereas most vampires will be like.
Everyone else is like, "Why are you drinking that?" And I'm like, "It's delicious."
Indeed.
I don't even have a functional stomach, and I can't stomach that.
Okay, you also gain the 2-point floor enemy, which is either someone who believes you owe them, or someone else who's a reason you like tend to like lie low when you're out on the streets. So obviously we'll deal with exactly who that is later, but just jot down you've got the 2-point enemy floor.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Okay, Johannes, what are we thinking?
So my first question is, are you comfortable with using some of the Cults of the Blood God stuff? They have 2 more predator types in there. One of them is the thing that I was thinking as a first choice, and then...
We'll break it down for me. And
Okay,
we'll say.
so let me read it out here. So, Grave Robber. Grave robbers often feed from fresh corpses, but despite their name, they prefer feeding from mourners in cemeteries and sad, frightened visitors and patients at hospitals. Melancholic resonance in a victim's blood appeals more than any other humor. This predator type often requires a vampire to hold a haven in one or connections into a church, hospital, or morgue. So basically, eating corpses and or mourners.
I'm fine with that. So if you want to go for that, what does that give you?
It gives me either a specialty in occult, which is grave rituals, so basically like the last rites stuff, or a medicine cadavers, which is the one that I was going to go for as a sort of like, maybe I do a night thing at the morgue and then sip on the corpses. Then you gain either a dot of fortitude or oblivion.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're probably going to go for oblivion. Since you've got full steam ahead necromancy.
Then also Iron Gullet, because it's dead corpses, right?
Fair.
And then a Haven, because you need that. And then you get the flaw, Obvious Predator. Your cold nature makes you act in deeply unsettling ways, matters when hunting. So I would be, if I was looking for fresh blood, I would be a very unsettling, creepy guy at the cemetery, looking for any lonely grievers, and then...
I certainly have no problems with you taking that.
So it is. I suppose a little bit on the very like specific, a little bit obscure side, and I'm very comfortable with going one of the core ones as well. We don't want to do this.
I've got to admit, I'm loving the fact that potentially your sires like embrace you, thinking like, I need to find out what's going on inside like the Inquisition. You know, that agency that's like looking for vampires, and by embracing you, he's like turned you into like uber necromancy vampire. So like the one who would stand out most to the Inquisition.
Yeah, maybe that was the idea all along. Again,
Maybe that's because you had like propaganda against vampires, and then when you were bit by one, you kind of like you had to internalize all that.
Yeah, it's like, oh fuck, like I need to check all these boxes now.
Yeah, I need to go around killing everyone like a absolute monster because that's what all vampires are.
Yeah, that's
like.
what vampires are. Now I'm one. I need to do this as well.
Okay, so yeah, I'm happy with that. So
Okay,
feel
yep.
free to put that down.
Yep. I will rob some graves.
Indeed. Okay, so next thing we're going on to, guys. Is everyone happy to move on to the next stage, or does anyone have any questions or anything like we need to sort out before we move on?
I'm cool for now.
Okay, so next bit, and this might take a little bit longer, we're going on to advantages. So you have 7 points to spend on advantages, and you have to take 2 points of flaws in addition to any you've got from your predator type. So what I'm going to do is, just for speed, I'm going to rattle through the list of merits, and most of these can be a positive or a negative. So I'm going to just rattle through them. If anyone hears anything they like the sound of, just shout up, and I will go into a little bit more detail on the ones you're interested in. Okay, so merits: linguistics, understanding other languages. Obviously, the flaw version is illiterate. Looks, physical appearance. Positive, appealing. Negative, ugly. Substance use, you're addicted to a substance besides blood. Obviously, that's a flaw. You can have it at various levels. Archaic, which you shouldn't really have because you're not old enough, which is just like, you've not adapted to modern ways. Bonding, you're blood bonded to somebody. Feeding, there's a few different sort of feeding flaws, like prey exclusion, Methuselah's thirst, you can only feed on supernatural creatures, stuff like that. Obviously we've got the iron gullet, which I know a few of you've already got, which basically means you can feed from cold blood, rancid blood, and even like bagged blood, because obviously when they bag blood up, they sort of run it through centrifuges and they separate out all the plasma. So most vampires don't really gain a lot of sustenance from that. However, you can like stomach it if you've got that iron gullet. We then go on to mythic merits and flaws. So there's stake bait. It's a 2-point flaw. If you get staked, you are not paralyzed. You are brown bread. That's you done. And 1-point flaw, folkloric bane. You take aggravated damage from some sort of folkloric bane, so like maybe ultraviolet light affects you. Normal vampires not affected by it unless it's actual sunlight. You take that bane, ultraviolet gets you as well. Silver or silver-plated weaponry would be another one. There's a 1-point flaw, folkloric block, so that's like people warding you away with crucifixes, not being able to go into a house unless you're invited. Obviously the flaw doesn't give you all of those, you pick one of those. 1-point flaw, stigmata. When you reach hunger 4, you start manifesting the signs of stigmata. Or there's the 2-point merit, eat food. You can continue to eat food without effort, and you might even enjoy it. It doesn't give you any nourishment, and before you rest when the sun starts rising, you will have to expel said food. But most vampires, if they eat food, they'd have to really struggle to like keep it down, whereas you can just be like, yeah, lovely. And as long as I throw it back up somewhere before I go to sleep, that's grand. Okay, so we skip over the thin-blooded ones, none of you are thin-blooded. We also have backgrounds that you can take as merits. Allies is what it sounds like. You have people who will help you. Mortals who support and help you, family, friends, etc. Contacts, people who can provide you with information in their area of expertise. There is fame, which obviously the positive version, you're well known, you can leverage that fame to your advantage. The flaw version is infamy, so you're famous for something horrible, basically. You can also take dark secret as a flaw, which is a milder version of infamy. The dark secret flaw gives you 1 fewer point than the equivalent infamy, as most people don't know about whatever horrible stuff you've done, apart from maybe like 1 or 2 sort of very motivated enemies. Okay, so, and if you take a 2-point version of that flaw, you are a cleaver or serial breacher of the masquerade, and like other vampires, are potentially like out to get you. The 1 point flaw might be you have like a debt or a favour to some like bad hombres. Influence is you having pull in the mortal world. You can influence the mortal world. The negative version of that is obviously a couple of examples. The 2 point version, despised. One group or region of the city lives only to thwart you and your faction. You subtract 2 dice from dice pools, attempting to convince a neutral person to support you politically or do you a favour. The 1 point version is disliked. You get like a 1 dice penalty. And the positive versions range from 1, well connected. You're guaranteed like a respectful hearing if you're like within those circles. So if you've got 1 point flaw, like hospitals influence, so 1 point merit, hospitals influence. If you go into a hospital and you're like, oh look, this is going on, I need to talk to someone about it, you'll be heard. Up to 5, which is like if you have hospital influence 5, like literally like if you walked into a hospital, people would try and work out what you wanted and the best way to get it to you. There is the haven background, which you can put numerous dots into to determine what haven you own, how secure it is, where it's located, other bits and pieces about it. There is herd. You've got a group of mortals that you can feed on. And we've obviously got Johannes's flaw here, obvious predator, where humans instinctively fear and sort of shy away from you because they can sense there's something unnatural about you. You lose 2 dice from any dice pool for hunting unless you're doing it purely physically. So no dice penalty if you're beating someone over the head and taking their blood. If you're trying to like schmooze someone though, it's going to be difficult. Okay, we then have lore sheets. And these are quite specific. We can go into these later on. But basically, a lore sheet is a specific sort of background. So Johannes wanted to be an ex-Inquisition agent. There's like an Inquisition agent lore sheet. And depending on how many dots you buy, it gives you certain things. Mask, which is you've got a pretense of humanity. You've basically got sort of like a mortal identity established, with all the like paperwork and whatever that involves. And obviously you can take a flaw version of that. So for instance, there is a 1 point flaw as known corpse. Like people know that you've died. So if you like stroll up to someone and you're like, oh hey, it's my mate from school, how's everything going? They'll be like, you're dead. Because they've like been to your funeral, or they like know you died in a car crash or whatever. Okay, there is Mauler, which represents a group of kindred who looks out for you, offers guidance and advice. You can also take the flaw version of that, which is like you've got a vampire adversary. There is resources, how much cash and resources you've got to call on. Obviously the flaw versions of that mean you might be destitute, you've got no money at all. Retainers, loyal and steadfast servants or assistants. There may be ghouls who are bloodbound to you, individuals you have so dominated over the years they're incapable of independent thought, or individuals you have so overwhelmed with your presence that they are entirely loyal to you. So retainers are basically people you can call on that you know their loyalty is guaranteed by whatever means. Status, you've got reputation and standing within a specified community. And I think that's it, apart from coterie backgrounds. I don't know if you'd mind doing the coterie backgrounds for me, Johannes, just so people don't have to just listen to all of my wiggling on concept. If you haven't got it handy, don't worry about it.
I have the PDF here. So we're talking about the coterie creation.
We're looking at the coterie backgrounds. Yeah, what page 196 onwards.
196. Yeah. Okay. So you give me the French, John. So after we went through the advantages that we can have for our individual characters, we can also make, and I presume since John put us up to this, we are going to make a coterie as well, to establish the sort of things that we have as a group. So this basically concerns the area that we have in the city and how that is and exists in relation to us. So there's 3 different ratings for our domain. So I suppose it's a piece of London that we might try to exert control over and lordship over. And this area is portrayed in 3 different stats, and the stats are in French because why not? And I will now not pronounce them successfully. So first off, we have chassé. So this is how well. What is it? Oh yeah. So how well stocked, vulnerable, and rich the domain is as a hunting ground. So basically, chassé is how well we can hunt within it.
Yeah, it also refers abstractly to the physical size of the domain. So to give you some examples, if you had chassé 1, you might have like a city block or a suburban gated community, which is like your area. If you had like 3 levels in it, you might have 8 blocks on both sides of a major street, 1 medium site like an airport or a casino or something like that.
Yep, and then the second stat is lien. So this is again, all of these are like heavy abstractions, but this is how well integrated we are to the community, the people, and the sort of infrastructure in the domain that we have. So it assists us when we're trying to interact peacefully with the locals, with the wildlife, so to speak. We're trying to find something specific inside our domain, or like figure out the word on the street. So this will help us in that way. And then the last one, portillon, which is how secure against various threats our domain is. So this would be like the amalgamated, how do we defend ourselves in the domain? So that might be like access to electronic surveillance. Maybe there's folks on the street who like to report us if there's like weirdos poking about, like whatever it might be. How well defended our domain is determined by portillon.
Lovely. Okay, thank you very much, Giannis. Now, obviously, we'll go into this in a bit more detail once you've like decided on your individual advantages. There is like a coterie sort of tab to the sheet, but what I'm going to do to make it easier, so you don't have to like all record it on your sheet, is I'm going to turn the test character that I'm looking at into a coterie sheet. Cool. So I will use that, which I'll give you all access to. Yeah, you should all be able to alter that. So what I'll do is, as we decide this, I'll jot that down in the coterie bit on that sheet, and all of you can like, access that and go and have a look in it, just to save like one person having to store it on their sheet or whatever. Okay, so as I've said, you've got 7 points to spend on advantages. So are there any of those backgrounds I read out earlier that people like need more description of, or that you're particularly interested in taking? So I say you've got 7 points. If you need me to go through them again, obviously just shout out.
There was the bonding section, the bonds section.
The bonds section, okay. Let me just turn to that.
Because I'm not particularly like. I know that like bonds are essentially if you drink someone else's blood or they drink your blood, they can form a bond over you, which is sort of a temporary form of control, right?
Yeah, but basically, if you drink another vampire's blood multiple times, it gives you artificial feelings of like loyalty towards that person. So now, Johannes, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sort of going on like a mishmash of this version and previous versions. But basically, if you fed on someone once, it's like, you have like minor feelings of loyalty towards them. You try not to screw them over, basically. If you've drank 2 times from that person within like a short period of time, you'll have very, very strong motivations to like look after that person, protect them. You'll want to help them out. If you drink 3 times from a person, that's like a full blood bond where you are virtually like their slave.
Yeah, they've sort of adjusted how it works in this edition, in that generally that's how it goes. However, this sort of lessen the like before the third sip. They sort of there's no mechanical effects to that. It's all in how you want to play the like escalating sort of commitment to this other person, and then with the third sip, it goes like full on into like, oh, I am now the blood slave of this person. I will serve them faithfully because they're great.
Yeah,
Obvious.
and even though those bonded feelings of loyalty are artificial, it doesn't matter if you know that.
Yep.
It's like if you're scared of something and someone goes, "Oh, don't be scared," that doesn't help. If someone comes up to you like, "Oh, it's just the blood bond," it doesn't matter, because as far as you're concerned, those feelings are real.
It might be true for someone else, but not for you, because you are. And this is a thing you can resist, but only momentarily for like one thing. So if you intend to like, I wanna try and get rid of this person who enslaved me, you might push down the bond for like that singular instance where you get the knife out, and then maybe that's it, and then you just put the knife back, and you're like, oh, that was silly of me. Like I almost stabbed this person that I really love. So
okay, so Ed, you said you were interested in the bonding flaw, so I'll give you examples of the flaws you can take with that. There is the 2 point. Now obviously you have to take 2 points of flaws in addition to any you've already got. There is the 2 point flaw, bond slave, and that means that basically if you drink even like a tiny bit of someone's blood, you are like insta bonded to them. Even if it's just like one little sip, you're insta bonded to them. There is the 1 point flaw, blood junkie. So you subtract 1 dice from your pool to act against a blood bond. You struggle to resist it. There is the 1 point flaw, long bond, where normally if you blood bonded someone, if you stay away from them for a long period of time, it will gradually decrease in its potency. If you've got the long bond, it takes you far, far longer for that to occur. Okay. If you want the merits, there's 3 different merits. If you buy a 1 point merit, you can be bond resistance, so you get an extra dice to resist blood bonds. You can take the 2 point merit, short bond, so your blood bonds decrease very quickly. Or you can take the 5 point merit, unbondable. You can drink as much vampire blood as you want, it will not blood bond you.
Nice.
Oh, I'm gonna have to take unbondable.
Although if you do take it, I will tell you, I'm fine with you taking unbondable. I will tell you, it does say here though that if you take unbondable, your blood is likely to be very interesting to blood sorcerers and alchemists, because they'll want to know why you're not blood bonded to people. So that's like a little extra wrinkle to it. But if you're happy with that, I'm happy for you to take unbondable.
I think that's completely fine.
Okay, so that will cost you 5 of your 7 advantage points.
Okay.
Okay, are there any that anyone else wants to look into?
So what I am mildly unclear about is that, so we now get 7 points of advantages, 2 points of flaws other than what we have from the predator type. But are backgrounds a subtype of advantage and flaw, or
yes.
Because they're separate on the character sheet?
Yeah. So unfortunately, in the book, it's a bit disorganized, and when I say bit, a lot. I have issues with how the book specifically lays out advantages and flaws. Advantages is the top tier term, and then within it you have backgrounds and merits.
Yeah.
And then you have flaws as well, which are all the mush where you spend your points.
Yeah, so for merits and backgrounds, you are going to be pulling from the same pool of points.
Yeah, for the 7.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you
and lore sheets as well. Sorry, just to make it clear, if someone had a lore sheet in mind, that's your 7 points pool as well.
That was somewhat clearer. Can you tell me about havens, please? Because that's super relevant.
I most certainly can. Just give me a moment. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so Haven. So basic ratings in Haven abstract the Haven size, security, and privacy. So, are you interested in taking Haven as a merit or a flaw?
A merit for sure.
Okay. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so from what I'm reading here, and obviously Janus, correct me if I'm wrong, you take dots in as many dots in Haven as you want, and basically, if someone's like trying to break into your Haven or locate you, they add the number of dice you've chosen as like an extra difficulty to their roll. So if you've got Haven 3 and someone's trying to break into your Haven, it's three more difficult.
Yeah, it's Haven is one of those like super nested advantages or backgrounds. So if for like baseline Haven, you have three different levels. You have one which is a small Haven, but maybe it's more secure and private. So the examples are like basement, apartment, crypt, that kind of thing. Then for 2 dots, good sized Haven or secure Haven or a private Haven. So these are all a bit like you choose what the rating means when you pick it.
Yeah, it's quite abstracted, as we were saying.
Yeah, and 3 dots would be very large, very secure, or very private. And the examples would be a compound outside of town, a bank building, or a decommissioned subway station. And then you can add on this is on page 188, and then you can like on top of that you can pile on flaws and other merits to further define your
So as well as your rating, so I'd advise first of all pick whether you want like a small, good sized or large Haven. That's one dot, 2 dots, or 3 dots.
Okay.
But obviously, even with like a 3 dot one, you could be like, I've still got a small Haven, but it's secure AF.
No one knows where it is.
Yeah, it's like a tiny like apocalypse bunker that's like off the grid. No one knows where it is.
It's a pit in the woods.
No, so I wouldn't go into those kind of extremes, but if I had in mind a Haven which is maybe like a 2-level thing where one of them is the club itself, and the other one is the private section of it, which is not for the average club goer.
I would say probably go for 2 dots, because that gives
Perfect.
you like a good size. So put down that you've got 2 dots of Haven. Now I'm also going to tell you some extras that you can spend extra dots on to like add little bits extra to your Haven. So I'll just rattle through them and let me know if you're interested. Okay, so there's Hidden Armory. It's what it sounds like. There's Cell.
Probably not.
There's Cell. You've got like a proper like locked, secure like area. Watchman. There's like security or like night watchman or whatever. There's Laboratory. You've got a fully equipped laboratory. Library. There's a dedicated library of the occult. Location. So if you put dots in location, it means you're in a particularly fashionable or exclusive area of the city. Luxury. So you've got like high definition TV, all the furnishings are plush, etc. You know, it's a bit more spanking, and it gives you bonuses to like social dealings with mortals in your Haven. There is Postern. Your Haven has a rear exit, secret tunnel, or like a grating that leads into the sewers as like an emergency getaway. Security system, does what it says on the tin. Surgery, you've got a room fully decked out as like a surgery with all that medical equipment and whatnot. Or warding, there's some sort of like supernatural like deterrents and reinforcements in your Haven. So do any of those sound interesting to you?
So security, location, and luxury sound very interesting. I made a note of these on my character sheet, and I'll get back to the specific points later.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I'll just tell you what you get for the points, so you've got some idea. So for security, for each dot you take into that, you add 1 dice to your dice pool to resist or alert you towards anyone trying to gain unauthorized access to your Haven. And what was the other one?
Location and luxury.
Okay, so location. You add 2 dice to bonuses on dice pools from either Chassis, which we were talking about earlier, or for your base Haven rating. Or you can add +2 to like foes difficulty if they're trying to gain access to your location and they're not like the right sort of people.
Okay.
What was the last one? Sorry.
Luxury.
Luxury. Okay. So. So buying this gives you a 2 dice bonus to social test dealing with mortal guests in your haven. If you don't have at least 3 dots of resources, your decor was gained illegally. So basically, if you've got like a pimped out luxury palace and you've not got the money to pay for it, that money's come from somewhere shady.
So okay, getting all of these would be so the extras are on a per point basis, one per one.
Luxury,
right?
luxury, you just spend 1 dot in it.
Mm-hmm.
Security, you can put as many dots in it as you want.
Okay.
And the other one, which I've forgotten again,
Location.
you just put 1 dot in that.
Cool. Okay.
Okay. So has anyone else got any backgrounds they'd like to, or merits they'd like to know more about? Like I say, you've all got 7 points to spend.
Yeah, I was thinking of fame and resources.
Fame, okay. Let's flip back to that. Okay, so fame, I presume you're thinking of a merit rather than a flaw.
Yeah, well, I have a point in as a merit so I guess I can't really.
Okay, so
I don't want to anyway.
So with your 1 point of fame, that means that a select subculture knows who you are and admires you. And basically what fame does, if I can find it, So basically, under certain circumstances, you can use your fame to add to your social dice pool. So like if you're trying to persuade some guys to like come with you and you're like in a gym, you might get an extra dice because you've got 1 dot in fame. If you put 2 dots in it, you are a local celebrity. You're recognised by more people in the city. 3 dots mean that most people in the country at least know your name.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking of like, I guess that's kind of seems character, but yeah, I'm thinking quite famous, so I might add 2 points. That'll give me up. So I've 5 left, and that'll give me up to 3 points in fame because I have 1 because of the. Yeah.
Okay, so you also asked about resources. So for 1 dot of resources, you are a portfolio proletariat. You live paycheck to paycheck. Apartment, car, and camping equipment is what you have access to. At 2, you are your middle class. You've got a nice apartment or a small house, several cars, high-end sort of tech equipment. At 3, you're rich. You've got a nice condo or a great house. You can get your hands on luxury items. You could get high-end like tech equipment for like several people. So like if you guys are all suddenly like, oh yeah, we all need like burner mobile phones or whatever. If you've got 3 dots in like resources, you can just be like, psh, phones for days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking. So having 3 points in resources, you see that would imply I have like a fairly swanky house. So
yeah, you've either got a great condo or like a really nice house.
So is that? But that's different from having a haven.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's like you own a house. That's not like a vampiric sort of like super haven like Greg's making. That's literally you own a house.
A haven is like, this is specifically like for a vampire.
Yeah, it's
like,
specifically
it's something...
secure for your use as a vampire as opposed to a house.
Haven is a location that is primarily for use as a vampire. It's secured, it's got all these extra bits and pieces in it.
Right.
The resources just give you like a normal house.
Right, so like having like a normal apartment, it might not be suitable for like a vampire. It might be in a weird location or... okay.
And you could, of course, you could use it for your purposes, but you might need to crash in the closet, for example.
Oh, right. It's not going to be sunlight.
Yeah, now, obviously, if in game you're like, oh, I've got this swanky condo, I'm going to go around and like put bin bags up over all the windows. You can do that in game, but like by default, it doesn't come with all the sort of vampire friendly stuff that a haven does.
Right. Okay. And if I wanted to take steps in game to make it like that, I would have to like do
Put
something
points in it.
Yeah,
mechanically.
you'd have
Right,
to
cool.
either put points in it at the start or do it in game.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'll take 3 points into resources.
Okay.
Um,
So you are officially classed as wealthy.
Yeah, smash that
Invited.
subscription button, follow,
So,
like and comment.
so in your sort of day-to-day life, you've got access to like what are considered to be a lot of like luxury items. So you wouldn't just have like, oh, I've got like a crappy like Nokia like 3310. You'd be like, oh, I've got the latest like Apple smartphone.
okay.
And it's like you can get hold of high-end equipment for several people. So like I say with the example earlier on, if you were like, oh, we need some burner phones, you wouldn't just have to be like, oh, I'm going to go and like get some like scrubby, like get a Nokia 3310s. You'd be like, oh, there you go, guys, like iPhones for everybody.
Right. Okay, cool. And that means I have 2 points left? 2 points left.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I might put them in herd.
Okay, let me look up herd. I'll tell you what that gives you. Okay, so herd. Bum 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 bum. You can slake your hunger rating in hunger each week without even having to make a roll. So instead of having to make a feeding roll, you can be like, I've got a certain amount of blood just on tap because I've got a herd.
Okay, so yeah, I was thinking that I might take herd, and this would just, you know, there are just people at the gym who I know that I can like. Maybe I know their schedules fairly frequently, or something, so I know how to like feed from them without.
Okay, so how many dots were you thinking of spending in that?
I was thinking just putting my remaining 2 into there.
Okay,
Because-
so 2 dots would mean that you have 4 to 7 vessels, half of whom share a resonance that you pick when you buy this. Now, to explain what resonance is, it's basically the particular like flavour that blood has, and that can be
Right.
determined by number. So if you're like, if you sort of like you're in the middle of a street fight and you grab someone and start feeding on them, you'll probably start feeling like a bit angry and a bit aggressive because they've got that in their blood. So
Okay.
So now there are resonances listed in here, but I'm going to handle it sort of like fairly sort of loosely. So just have a think, and when you've thought about it,
Yeah.
just jot it down. What sort of like vibe you get when you're feeding from your herd?
Right.
Okay. So does anyone else want to know about any particular backgrounds or merits?
So, John, I was thinking of, I just took a look at the Project Antigen sheet. So I was thinking of picking up the 2.tactical dossier, which is on page 235.
Okay, splendid. Let me just look that up. Now, as I said earlier, law sheets give you sort of, they give you specific sort of advantages under certain circumstances. So if anyone is potentially interested in a law sheet, let me know and I can rip through some that I've got. I've certainly got some in the London book which are appropriate. So Johannes is looking at the Operation Antigen, which is like the mortal name for the Second Inquisition. And with that, so for instance, a 1 dot in that means that you've got a trusted insider, or like give you a bit of an early warning if like the Inquisition are coming after you, up to like level 5 where you've like legitimately got official credentials that say you're a member of the Inquisition. So how many dots were you thinking of going for that?
I was thinking for 2 tactical dossier.
Okay, so to explain to the rest of you guys, tactical dossier means that you have acquired or been leaked a dossier which discusses the typical antigen operating procedures, covering surveillance protocols, stuff like that. During a scene which involves Operation Antigen, the Second Inquisition, you can use the contents of this dossier to predict and outwit their behaviour. If the outcome of a scene results in Antigen being aware they've been outmanoeuvred, they will change their operating procedure and the dossier will become useless. So if we do a scene where I'm like, oh, the Second Inquisition are like breaking into your haven, they're like coming for you, Johannes can legitimately say to me like, well, would I have any ideas like how they're going to approach this attack? And I think, yes, this is how they typically do things. Then obviously you guys can react to that. Is anyone else potentially interested in lore sheets? I'll give you some examples of the ones just from the London book. There is Court of Shadows. There is a mysterious figure known as the King of Shadows who lurks in the London underworld. You've got some influence within his circles. There is Hunt Club. An organisation known as the Hunt Club has been operating covertly in London since the end of the Second World War. It's obviously an organisation of vampires. You've got influence with them. There is London Under London. You've got access to like the underground network, the subways, stuff like that. You can get around more easily without having to worry so much about security. There's obviously the Operation Antigen we looked at, and there's a couple that relate to specific kindred, which we're probably best not to really go into, because those kindred probably aren't about. I'm just going to see if I can have a look what we've got in the main book. Lore sheets 382. Okay.
Just a quick question.
Of course, go ahead.
The 7 that we get to spend here is all that we get to spend on character creation. There are no freebie points or anything, right?
No.
Okay.
If we're going with standard stuff, there's some XP. However, that's entirely up to John, because as we know, we are going with the idea of being very fresh. So the XP in the standard sort of character creation refers to vampires who are, I think, was it like up to 50 years dead or thereabouts?
Yeah.
So we might skip the XP as an indicator of like we are fresh out of the mouth.
Yeah. Basically, what happens is if we were playing a game where you're playing older vampires, you would get some XP at the start, which you could spend to like bump your characters up. But we're going for like fairly recently created vampires, so that's not really going to be a thing here.
Cool. Absolutely. I'm just trying to figure out how to allocate stuff.
No, it's all good. Like, never worry about asking questions. I'd rather have people ask like 50 questions and you guys all get characters that you want than like not ask them.
Sorry, what was the 2-point version of resources again?
Okay, resources. Bum, bum, bum. The 2-point version of resources means that you're middle class. You have a nice apartment or a small house, several cars, and access to high-end equipment.
Okay.
So if you took that level, as well as having your haven specifically prepared, like your club or whatever, you would also have a house, you've got a few cars, and although you're not going to be like iPhones for days like Ambrose, you'd have like some decent gear yourself.
Yeah, okay. And just because I will start with having enemies due to my background or the predator type, I want to check something specific with you. Obviously, this game has like darker themes, but especially considering the stream, how okay are we with drug use references?
Okay, the way I'm going to sort of handle anything like that is I've made it clear on my stream that it's a channel that's potentially going to have like adult content on it. Mm-hmm. So as long as we're not getting too ridiculous, I'm happy with it. And if I think a scene is getting too ridiculous, it's very easy to just like let's just pick a random example. Let's say one of you's like torturing somebody. We'd play it up to a certain point, then we just sort of like fade to black and like cut in at the end.
No, it's just because I think fitting the theme of my character, the enemy may be like going back even before he became a kindred.
Yeah, that's fine.
And maybe some of his resources come from illicit dealings in the club, spreading stuff around, and then maybe the enemies, at least in part, could be tied to that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Can you? I was flipping through the PDF just now, but can't find enemies.
Yeah, that would be because of the poor layout that I mentioned before. So I will find you the page. It's there, but it's not
Okay.
very apparent.
It's the allies section.
Yeah, it's 184, and you have to it's sort of in the halfway point between the prose text.
Yeah. So basically, you build an ally or an enemy from a budget of points based on their effectiveness. All enemies are rated 2 fewer dots in their effectiveness. So if you wanted to buy a gifted mortal as an ally, it will cost you 3 dots, but it would only be worth 1 dot as an enemy. And basically, the way this works is you go from weak mortal, average mortal, gifted mortal to like deadly mortal.
Okay, so the 2 points that I get from the feeding the predator type would
So
pretty much mean that this could be a well-armed group of enemies.
well, because it's worth 2 dots less, you would effectively have a deadly mortal as an enemy. So that could be a mortal gifted with magic or other supernatural powers, or it could be a well-armed group of gifted mortals, so like a private security squad, a Russian mafia team or something like that.
That's perfect.
Oh yeah, let's get the Bratva on board. That's what we need.
Not specifically the Bratva, but like,
Now, basically, you need to split the points you're spending on them between their effectiveness, which is how powerful they are, and their reliability. So for an enemy, reliability is like how often they're going to appear and like throw down with you. But like I say, it's worth effectiveness is worth 2 dots less if it's an enemy.
Okay, so it could technically be a dangerous group with a reliability of 1.
Yep.
And then that's 2 points, right?
That's it, exactly.
Okay. What does it mean if my enemies have a reliability of 2?
With a reliability of... So basically, reliability of 1 is like they turn up very occasionally to cause trouble with you. Reliability of 3 is like they're always turning up to throw a spanner in the works. Reliability of 2 is like they show up fairly frequently, but it's not like every time you turn around they're there causing you trouble.
Okay, so I'm going with a 3-point effectiveness counting as 1 and a 1-point reliability.
Okay, yeah, so note that down in your sheet and note down that you have a dangerous group of average mortals who appear occasionally. And like I say, just note this on your sheet somewhere, because obviously I'll need to check this. And if you have any thoughts about what this dangerous group of mortals might be, obviously feel free to like shout out and we can get you to jot that down as well. Because obviously it's your enemy. Even though it's going to be something that's causing you trouble, I want it to be something that's going to interest you. So I don't want to be like, oh yeah, the Russian mafia are after you, if you're like, no, I'm not interested in that. So obviously,
cool.
Have you got any ideas as to who you think?
I'll work on this.
Yeah, no problem. Like I say, obviously you've all got access to the Roll20 now, so you can jump into that whenever you want. But at some point between like now and the first session, try and like note these things down, because I'll be sort of checking this before the first session. The first session will be sort of like a bit of a sort of basics intro. So, okay. Anyone else need any stuff?
So, I have a query.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have the Iron Gullet merit already from my background, from my Predator type, which means that I can drink old blood.
Yes.
If I took the vegan floor, would that mean that I could pretty much only feed off like dead animals and like bagged animal blood?
Let me just have a check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's certainly a thing you could do.
So that'd mean that like say you don't have to feed off old blood. you can do because you've got Iron Gullet. But if you took the 2-point feeding floor vegan, you would have to spend 2 points of willpower to drink human blood.
Which, by the way, in their updated materials is called farmer now because vegan makes fuck all sense.
Yeah.
Literally, it's the exact opposite of a vegan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just vampire slang at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's how I looked at it.
that's tempting. Also, with enemies, do they specifically have to be mortals, or could you have a less powerful vampire enemy or other supernatural enemy?
The enemy flaws is sort of specifically mortals.
There was a different one you mentioned, though.
Yes, there is one which is for vampire enemies. I can't remember what it is at the moment. But
Was it adversary?
yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have a look at that, I guess.
Tell you what, they're not joking when they give, cause they give you like mortal templates to build like enemies and stuff, and it's like if you have like a deadly mortal, they have like 15 points of advantages.
Oh, that's like at least 2 of us.
And they have like 2 attributes at level 5, so that's like literally like I have an assassin after me with like all the resources in the world.
That's kind of. Yeah.
I can see you're tempted by it, Ambrose. Oh, I could be pursued by an assassin, you say?
How to make it a blood god now?
No, I was thinking that I like have a rival MMA like guy or something. It's like really, really like good at MMA, but also very like wealthy and famous. And then I was just thinking, oh, do we really want to put Conor McGregor as one of the antagonists? Like,
And then you're just both filming like trash talk videos at each other all day.
yeah.
This
It
is gonna
happened.
be great.
So it's not half as great as that, but I have a question for everyone, including John. So let's start with John. Is status on the table as a thing you could buy?
Let me just have a look. No, you're going to say that's not in the main book, aren't you?
Yeah, it is in the main book.
Oh, that's fine.
Unfortunately, I too have to follow the rules sometimes.
Damn you, Rolls. Okay, let me just have a look.
I have a feeling that's going to be a no, though.
Status. You have something of reputation and standing within a specified local community of kindred. Probably get... No, status is off the table.
Yeah, because I was thinking of like because we are our thing, and I was thinking if one was gonna take status, we could be like, hey, I am also a landlord in this house. It's me. But yeah.
Yeah, because there's not really... Normally, yeah, it would be, but because of the background,
Yeah.
and there's not any big groups of kindred about.
Yeah. I was just gonna dump my 2 points into it and be like, I own this area. This block is mine.
This cemetery is mine.
These corpses are mine.
So I think I'm going to take as my flaw an adversary, who is
Okay.
someone who tried to blood bomb me and it didn't work, and they were equal parts confused and angry.
Nice. I'm just trying to-
They just want their blood back.
I'm just trying to find where adversary is,
Give
actually.
it back.
It is the opposite of Mauler.
Ah, yeah. Of course it is, silly me. That random word that I've never used in any sort of...
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So how many dots are you putting in that, sorry?
2, so it's an ancilla.
Okay, so note down that you've got an ancilla adversary. And basically, what we're going to do once you've all spent your points is we're going to any supporting cast you've got from your advantages and flaws, we're going to add them onto the map. So that will entail you finding some more pictures, guys. But you don't have to come up with like a name for each of like the Russian mafia syndicate or after. You just have to find a picture of some mobsters and say like, oh, Russian mafia, and we'll put them on the character sheet. So you guys feel free to spend your merits and flaws. I'll let you get on with that. Please discuss it amongst yourselves. I'm going to go quiet for a bit and just let you get on with that. Obviously, if you need any further descriptions of anything, just shout out and I'll be more than happy to provide that. But otherwise, I'm just going to let you get on with that. Let me know, guys, when you've finished and you've spent your points.
Okay. So may I start? Are you okay with that, guys? Yeah. So I start with obviously having 3 points between fame and herd because of my predator type. So I decided to put 1 into fame and 2 into herd. 1 point of fame because he's like he has a name to himself, but it's very specific to those in that specific subculture. But at the other hand, or on the other hand, people who would visit his club, and there are some regulars and some like Brody type people who have more access to like the VIP lounge and all that, also serve as his herd, people he can somewhat freely feed on, even though they have no actual clue about who or what he really is. And then I went for the 5 points in Haven. 2 as a basic, and then 1 point in security, location, luxury. And then I added 2 points of resources. So that is as far as the positive stuff goes. I also have 2 points of enemies coming from the predator type, and I am still picking out the extra 2 points of flaws that I need to allocate. But if you have any ideas that fit this, I am more than happy to listen to those.
Right, so going through the merits, was it? Sorry, I was looking up names. That most difficult task of all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I have is, well, I also eat corpses. Well, I can eat corpses because I have the Iron Gullet merit. Then I also have 1 dot Haven, which I think is going to be... it's probably going to be a basement apartment somewhere, rather nondescript, maybe in a bad part of town. It's a haven, so I sleep literally underground in my basement apartment, and it's just 1 dot, no frills. So, and then I have 2 dots in the Operation Antigen sheet, from which I get the detailed information about how they work, because my character used to be a Project Antigen agent. And then the big thing happened, and he died. He was picked off by the vampire he was tasked to shadow, and turns out that he was made into a vampire. However, being that he was a kind of government agent doing stuff that was more than off the books, because Project Antigen isn't really up for like budget review like every 6 months. Like this stuff isn't discussed anywhere officially. and as a result, my character was already, before they actually died, they were purged from the record. So I took 2 points in mask, and then I put the third point for zeroed. So he doesn't exist anywhere in records, and he has the like a fake identity as a mortician, I think, as a result of the mask. But like it does hold up pretty good. But the actual person that he used to be when he was alive doesn't exist officially at all. And then I'm going to put my 2 remaining points. I was just writing that up now. So I'm going to pick up a 2-point retainer who is going to be um, a priest. I think probably, given all the givens, it's going to be a Catholic church. So it's going to be a Catholic priest. And it's going to be a ghoul, because you can get a ghoul for 2 points. And it's going to be specifically the ghoul of my character's sire that I now maintain, because I picked up some of the stuff that was left after they got wrecked by the Inquisition. So I assumed the role of the Domitor for this Catholic priest ghoul. And I think it's in connection, like all of this kind of folds together. So the vampiric existence of my character kind of derives from what my sire had. So they had fingers in the church pies. So I picked up the ghoul because they existed and I knew them already. So I picked up the ghoul, and I think my feeding stuff is a direct result of the fact that my sire had access to the church morgue. So my character probably has this like nighttime morgue assistant thing going on at the church morgue, and does most of the feeding there, and has the priest there to facilitate all of this for him. Basically, the priest is the key to the church because he literally has those keys, and my character just like gets a meal ticket as a result of that. And I haven't picked my flaw yet, but I do have the 2-point flaw as an obvious predator. So I'll get two more points as soon as I get a name for this Catholic priest ghoul. Yeah, that's my merits and flaws.
Okay, well, I guess I will go next. So I have from my predator type, I have an iron gullet also. So if there's any corpses, go and spare.
Yep. Corpse boys.
And this is something. So what we'll do is, after you've all gone through these, we'll drop these onto the map. So like the Catholic priest, various other bits and pieces. But yeah, this is exactly what we're going to be doing in sort of games, working out like ties between you guys and like links. So like you say, Ed, but both you and Johannes have got that iron gullet, so it's entirely possible that, like, say, if you're like needing a bit of that like sweet cold dead blood, you might be like giving Johannes' character a nudge and be like, oh, hook a brother up.
Yeah, hook a brother up with a corpse.
And then
corpses all day.
And then I've got the unbondable, which I'm pretty sure has probably caused much trouble in my past, and I have absolutely no idea why it's so special. And then my final merit is I can eat food, because if you're a student, you're used to throwing up after you've been out on the night out anyway. So like it's not actually that unusual. She just has a dodgy kebab, vomits on the way home, then goes to bed. It's simple.
Yeah, and now you're out every night.
Yeah. However, my flaws, I have a 2-dot enemy, which I'm thinking is probably a human alchemist who, when I was quite a new vampire, they somehow got a sample of my blood, and they were like, "This is a bit weird," and so they're like after me to get more samples and essentially put me in like an apparatus to just drain me dry constantly. And then I also have an adversary who is an ancilla who presumably, when I was new again, took me through, showed me the ropes, tricked me into drinking their blood repeatedly, was like, now you'll do everything I say. And I went, no? And they went, oh no. And so they're also out to get me, but probably maybe I saw something that I wasn't meant to. But again, my character's kind of oblivious to like how this world works now, and so isn't sure if they have any useful information about it. And so yeah, I just make friends and enemies everywhere I go.
Excellent. What about yourself then,
Ooh.
Ambrose?
All right.
Mr.
So,
iPhone-tastic.
well, I realized that like having fame and resources kind of, I don't know, maybe emphasized the wrong part of my character, and kind of like I feel like that kind of encroached on like what Greg was doing with like the club, sort of, if you know what I mean. So I actually have the PDF here, so I just sort of changed it to having a small 3-point haven and 3 points of contacts and just a 1-point hurt, if that's all good. Yeah, and for I haven't quite got. So I guess for the flaws, I will pick like enemy, and we can have
I know you wouldn't be able to resist.
and well, no, because I feel like it's against the spirit. Because I don't think of it as a flaw. I think it's like we're of course going to have like several antagonists, and if I take it as a flaw, it implies that I just have one, which yeah, but yeah, I just think it's funny to say that I officially have like a famous like MMA fighter as like a huge enemy of mine.
Excellent. Sounds good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through each of you, and any of your merits or your flaws that would be an NPC or a group of NPCs, let me know, and what I'll do is I'll quickly knock up a sheet for them and we'll add them onto the diagram. So Greg, what do you have in terms of like NPCs?
Okay, so as far as enemies go, what I wrote down in the process was a dangerous group of average mortals appearing occasionally, which is a drug ring that the character had dealings with who have expanded their territory to the area the club is in, which creates a conflict of interest between their business and the character's own dealings to the club goers. So they occasionally show up to try and pressure him into stopping or paying them off, but so far it has been no more than a mild nuisance.
Okay, and so I've put down drug dealer near your character.
Yeah. And then I was also looking at the further flows to take. And I decided that going with the 1-point flow version of retainers, which is stalkers, sounds super on brand for this guy.
Okay, so who is you seeing as being your stalker?
So it says that should I deal with this person and get rid of them in any way, another one will soon appear anyhow. But to begin with, I think it may be like a media person who wants to just take a metaphorical dump on the club and that lifestyle. So a paparazzi style person to begin with.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll add that into the notes. So okay. So any other NPCs for yourself, Greg? Or
Not at this point, but If I think of anyone, I'll let you know.
No, that's all good. Thank you very much. So I'll just add some lines for them to the diagram. Okay, so Ed, how are you looking for NPCs?
So currently I have a baddie human alchemist and a enemy ancillo.
Okay, so let me just go through these one by one. So you've got a human alchemist, and how many points of flaws was that?
It is a 2-point enemy.
2-point enemy. Okay. So I'm just gonna add a sheet on for them. Human alchemist. Okay, and what was the other one? It was an enemy ancilla.
Yep.
And that's a 2-point adversary, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any others or?
Nope, that's me.
Okay, lovely. So, how about yourself then, Johannes, for NPCs?
For NPCs, I only have my priest ghoul,
So, Catholic, priest, ghoul, and that.
and there's probably going to be some antigen guys, but those will come later when they.
Okay, how many points? I presume it was like a retainer. How many
Yeah, it's a
points?
2-point retainer.
2-point retainer. Okay, lovely. So, save that. That's them on the map. Draw a quick line for them. Okay, so Ambrose, how about yourself for NPCs?
Yeah, so I have 2 contacts. One's from my Predator background, so and that's just a 1-point contact. So I assume they're sort of like, I don't know, someone involved with gym culture. So
Okay.
I'm gonna, using a name generator, I'm just gonna say Heather Smith. Do I want?
Heather Smith's fine.
And I'm gonna have Stephen Coleman as my 3-point contact, and they're just like a sort of technology specialist who can find really like high-end equipment for me.
Okay, Stephen Coleman, a 3-point contact tech specialist.
Alright, and for my enemy, a 2-point enemy for, I'm gonna say Sean McCarthy as a rival MMA guy.
Sean McCarthy. And how many points of enemy did you say that was? 2 points?
Yeah, 2 points.
And he's a rival MMA person. Okay. Okay, so let's drag them onto the map. So we've got Heather Smith. Sean McCarthy. And Stephen Coleman. Okay, so we've started to work the map up already. Just going to refresh my screen because it's been a bit wibbly. Okay, so have we got everyone's NPCs, etc. locked down for the moment?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just waiting for my screen to refresh itself. There we go. Okay, lovely. Splendid. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to do convictions and touchstones are the next bit. So I'm just going to turn to the relevant page here. Okay, so this is focused on beliefs, so your humanity. So convictions are human values you attempt to uphold even after death. Each character begins with 1 to 3 convictions. The specifics of the convictions are up to the player. They might reflect a religious code, a personal code of ethics, a vampire path, or just things you do or don't like doing. So some examples might include: thou shalt not kill, kill only the unworthy, unbelievers, kill only in fair combat, never expose children to violence, love thy neighbour as thyself, disobedience is dishonour, protect the innocent from harm, courage is the highest virtue, and there's a load more. Now, the reason these are handy to have is if you incur sort of stains like marks of the beast when you've done like things in frenzy, you've done like shady shit. If you're doing some of it because of one of your convictions, you can sort of lessen the impact on yourself. So you might be like, oh yeah, I did kill that guy, but I did it because I was trying to protect a kid from getting hurt, and that would sort of like comfort you and mean you got less sort of flack from it. There's less of a stain on your humanity. So you get 1, 2 or 3 of those, and like I say, they're pretty much open to your own interpretation.
Okay.
And those are on the Chronicle tab of your character sheet. There's a box that says touchstones and convictions. You can just jot those in there. Now obviously you don't have to write them all down at the start. If you want to leave, I'm quite happy if you want to leave some of it blank and fill it in as you get used to playing the character, but obviously you do gain like a practical benefit from having these, so that's worth bearing in mind.
Such as?
What is the you mean what's the benefit?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I say, the benefit is if you do something that would impact your humanity, but you're doing it because you're following one of your convictions, it means that it will lessen the impact on your humanity.
Okay.
And also, if you act against your convictions, that will generate
Yeah.
the stains.
So if you took like love thy neighbour as you would love yourself or whatever as one of your convictions, and you severely injured someone or killed someone, but they were trying to break into your neighbour's house and you were like protecting it, you would take less of a hit on your humanity because you were trying to like protect your neighbour. But by the same token, if you like bust into your neighbour's house and kill someone or whatever while you're in there, that's going to be worse because you're not only like doing something that would affect your humanity, you're also violating one of your convictions. I'm loving the fact, Ambrose, you've gone for I will master my skills as a fighter.
Yeah, I was thinking like because we joked before. I joked before that like you can't continue to gain muscle mass after death, but I think that's an interesting, continuing to try and master a skill. It's still really interesting to me.
Now, bear in mind when you choose a conviction, after we've done this, you're going to create a touchstone connected with that conviction. So that's like a human who embodies that conviction to you. So Ambrose has gone for I will master my skill as a fighter. So we might be like, oh, it's my old like teacher down at the dojo, or it's like my sparring partner or whatever. They embody that.
Yeah, and I was thinking that it was like sort of like an old like coach or something.
And what I would suggest you do is when you put your conviction down, just underneath sort of like jot down like a brief description of the touchstone. I'm loving the fact, Ed, you've got some like mad like human scientist who's after your blood.
Yep. Well, I was like, it's the other take on The Alchemist, right? And
Sorry, I was just imagining that when you were talking about someone trying to blood bond you and it not working, it was a normal human trying to blood bond you, and like, why doesn't this work? He's unbondable.
no. It's that thing of like, oh, I woke up and I wasn't feeling well. Maybe I should go and see a doctor. The doctor's like, we'll run your blood for some tests. Oh shit. Can't have anyone see this who's in the NHS. Let's just hide it and take more blood.
Okay, so how's everyone getting on with their convictions and touchstones?
Slowly but steadily.
It's all good?
I actually picked two. It's just the longer description is giving me a challenge, but I'll get there.
No problems. Well, like I say, as far as I'm aware, certainly as far as the character creation summary is concerned, like this is like the last bit, sort of system-wise.
Are we going to have Chronicle tenants? that a thing?
Let me just have a look.
There's sample sets which we can easily pick from. I think there's at least 2 very fitting ones that we can just pick the set and be done with it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, after we've sorted this out, in addition to like the stuff you get for each other, you also get like a pool of points to spend on stuff for like your shared coterie, which is what we're talking about earlier with like the portillon and stuff like that. But we'll go into that in a bit.
Okay. So I've got 2 touchstones. I think I'll leave it for that. Maybe a third will come up sort of during play.
Okay, so let's have a quick look at Ed's character sheet then. So Charlie, a friend from veterinarian school, and a childhood neighbour.
Does the touchstone have to be someone you have like a good relationship with?
No, not at all. It's just a mortal person that, like, for you personifies the conviction.
Right.
So it could just be like I put down a serial killer, which my character would not be down with, but they embody a thing that my character holds a conviction about.
Alright, so like for example, if my character was a cop, I might have like that a serial killer might embody my like do whatever it takes to bring someone to justice or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing there is that because they embody your conviction, if harm comes to them, you will also suffer because you have attached this resonance to this individual. So if someone actually like comes up and whacks this serial killer, like some vigilante comes out and like shoots their brains out, your humanity will suffer because you lost your touchstone.
Okay. Do we as like vampires, do we understand that?
I think it's not probably it's not a thing that comes with the manual like Vampirism 101, but it's like it's generally understood, and I presume that our sires told some of this to us from what John said, that you need to keep people in your life somehow because otherwise you're going to end up a beast in the woods. And this is the sort of like mechanical implementation of that idea.
Right, but it's not quite like another vampire probably wouldn't come to us and say, "Hey, I need your help protecting my touchstone" or something.
Yeah, probably not. So it might be more like we go somewhere, we're doing our thing, and then John puts one of our touchstones in the scene for some reason. And then your character's like, "Oh shit! Like, hey guys, I know that this is gonna be an extra issue that we need to deal with, but like, don't fuck with this guy because I have some business going on with him. So like, let's just leave him be and do our thing on the side here, please."
Yeah, you basically the person embodies something that's important to you, and that you would be you will be lessened by their absence. But like you say, vampires don't sort of see it in like a system fashion, like this is my touchstone. It's just like this is someone who, for whatever reason, is important to me.
Right. Okay.
Or if you want to, and I know that you do because you are you. If you want to put a darker spin on things, you might just go out and hurt your touchstones, and that will generate decay in your character, which I think you might find amusing. When you beat up your own touchstones and maybe kill them.
That'll teach them.
Yeah, to be touched like a stone.
By my stone, yeah.
They're called touchstones.
Yeah.
So I touched them with a stone in the head.
Yeah, and they died.
Somehow. So can you gain new ones or?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can replace them.
Oh, I read in the thing that like if they like die of old age or something, you can like transfer the conviction to like their descendant or something, or someone who.
Yep.
But like, can you gain like new convictions?
I think 3 is the max as far as the mechanics go. So if you lose one of those, you can pick up a new one. Like if someone gets hit by a car, entirely just random chance entropy in the world, then you can definitely pick up a new one, but you will still suffer for the fact that the human died.
So when it comes to convictions, do I need specifically one touchstone for each, or can it be multiple?
Yeah, it's one touchstone per conviction.
Okay. Oof.
Okay, I've got mine done.
So have I, but the last one I might alter or something.
Okay. I'm just sort of adding them to the map.
Okay. Done, unless I think of something else for a third conviction later.
So, yeah, can the touchstone is also lost if the person is embraced, right?
Yeah, touchstones need to be humans.
Right. Does that include ghouling?
Ghouls, I believe, are okay because
Yeah, they are.
it's still kind of human, or mostly human anyway. And then you get into interesting conversations with John about like what exactly is hurting your ghoul. Like, is keeping them a ghoul hurting them because you're enslaving this person?
Okay.
Oh boy. Wanted to keep my touchstone continuing for as long as possible. Turn them into a ghoul. Regret.
Yeah, regrets eventually.
Okay, so we'll move on to the coterie creation, which is, I believe, the last bit, if I'm correct, Jonas. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I know this is a bit involved, guys, so thank you very much for bearing with me. Coterie creation, so effectively it's a pool of points you have to spend on stuff like your domain, like a group haven, stuff like that. So the coterie pool begins with 1 free dot per player character. So you've got a pool of 4 points. Now I'm going to put this in the coterie sheet. Okay, so so this is the 3 sort of French bits we were talking about earlier. So this is determining your domain as a coterie. So this is relevant to all of you. Now you have 4 points to go into this. If at any point any of you want to like throw in some of your own advantage points, you can do so, but obviously you'd have to take them out of your own pool, so you'd have to like jiggle things around a bit. So let's just see where we go first with the 4 points you've got. Now these have to be spent collectively, so we're going to have to discuss where you want these points to go. So there's 3 ratings, as we said. There's Chasse, Liane and Portillon.
Portillon.
Okay, so Chasse describes how well stocked, vulnerable and rich the domain is as a hunting ground. 1 dot in Chasse will give you a default hunting difficulty of 6 inside your domain. each additional dot reduces that difficulty by 1. So the more points you've got in it, the easier it is to hunt. It also affects the size of your your domain. So 1 point is a city block or a suburban community. 2 is 2 to 4 blocks, a park and its entrances, or a small site like a tourist landmark or a hospital. 3 is 8 blocks on both sides of a major street, a medium site like an airport, or a major employer like a casino or a college. Your Leon is how well integrated the coterie is into your domain. Each dot in Leon adds 1 dice to your coterie members' pool on attempts to interact with mortals, find something or someone specific within your domain, find out the word on the street, or otherwise investigate something within your domain. It doesn't modify hunting rolls though. Portignon describes how secure your domain is against intrusion or disruption, other vampires, mortal police, or predators. Each dot of Portignon subtracts 1 dice from a foe's dice pool when they attempt to enter, investigate, or otherwise get up to shenanigans in your domain.
Does this last bit stack with the advantages of a haven?
This is distinct from your haven, but your haven could be situated within your domain. So in that case, I would say, I don't know if this is 100% accurate to how the rules are, but I'm going to say if your haven's inside the domain, you would get the benefits of the domain, because that just makes sense to me.
Do you get some hunting bonuses from your haven? Or I guess what was your what were you thinking when you ask about the stacking?
No, it's just because it has a rating for security.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
also...
So those two would be entirely separate things. So your haven might be inside our domain. However, you have your own security rating for that. So even if someone gets up into our domain, your haven will still be discreet and secure until they actually zero in on that particular thing and overcome your defenses.
Okay.
Yep. So this security thing is more about covering the entire turf that we have. So let's say we have a entire district. So how secure is the entire area for us as far as are we aware when vampires roll in with their motorcycles and be like, yeah, anarchy, as opposed to someone figuring out as opposed to someone figuring out which basement specifically you have your club in.
Okay,
yeah, so the way I would rule it is, let's say someone was trying to come into your domain specifically to get towards your haven. I would say they would have to make a roll to work out where your haven is and that it's your haven, which would be affected by the domain. Then once they get to your haven, assuming they succeed on that roll, they're then going to make whatever other rolls they've got to make to overcome your security. So effectively, it's not so much stacking, but they've got to get through different levels of security. So your domain's the first level, then you've got your specific haven they'd have to get through as well. Whereas if they were trying to get into Ambrose's house, that's just a case of they just rock up, make the roll to get through the domain, and then they can just get into the house. Whereas your haven's got the extra security.
So I'm gonna propose, just to get us going, because this is a bit. So
one question quickly.
Yep.
Is this attributes where you have one in the minimum, or can you have none in these 3 things?
You can have none as well.
Okay. So the first one is a geograph determines the size.
Yeah, and also the hunting difficulty in that area.
If we had none in that,
we would have very hard time finding food in that area.
Yeah, you wouldn't have a specific domain, so it'd be just whatever individual holdings you've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you'd be I own this house, this is mine, but outside this house, I've got no special abilities over any other area.
Yep. So I was going to suggest we dump 3 points into Chassé and get 8 blocks on both sides of a major street, one medium site, which the examples are airport, major employer, casino, college. So basically like a hefty sized area, but not like a giant. Like we don't own the entire district, but we have a good number of buildings within our reach there, and also the hunting difficulty then is kind of more manageable than and then just put the one extra for either Lian or Portillon, depending on if we want to be friends with the people or have more security.
Now, I do have, rather than sort of just dishing up these points, I do have an alternate suggestion in mind, which isn't strictly legit according to the book, but see what you think of it. It offers a number of different types of coterie, where it gives you like sample domain ratings and also some like extra backgrounds that you could buy as a group. Now, if you guys want, because it'll benefit you guys, I'm happy to just have you pick one of these types of coterie, and I will like give you the extra backgrounds as like group backgrounds, just to like save having to like worry about points and stuff like that. Does that? Because then you just like pick with this type of coterie, and I'd go boom, you've got this.
Yep, and I will put in Zoom chat presently. I will put my suggestions because some of these don't fit with our campaign. For example, nomads, like we're not traveling places, right?
So I'm just going to very quickly rattle through the titles and roughly what they are. Like, and obviously between you guys, you decide which one of these you want to be. So there's blood cults, which are they're what they sound like. They're a cult. There's Cerberus. Your coterie exists to protect or guard a certain spot or important location. Champions. You exist to fight for a cause, possibly even ones mortals might recognise as worthy. Commando. You exist to fight your enemies, like you're like the vampire equivalent to the SWAT team. There's Day Watch. You guard the undead city from mortals, especially during the day when most kindred sleep. Not really appropriate. Fang Gang. You operate as a criminal gang. Hunting Party. You specialise in hunting and capturing humans with particular types of blood. Marashal, you serve and guard the prince, again not really applicable. Nomads, not applicable because you travel from place to place. Plumer, you're united by ties of social prominence and common enthusiasms. Questari, you exist to accomplish a great enterprise or objective. Vehemi, you exist to protect the masquerade, so like stopping other kindred getting out of line. Watchman, you patrol the city and protect it from intruders like anarchs, werewolves, that sort of malarkey. So I don't know if any of those particularly appeal to you guys as the type of coterie you might want to be. Discuss it amongst yourself. It has to be a group decision.
Yeah. So my suggestions are either Blood Cult, Cerberus, Champions, Fangang, Veme, or Watchmen.
I think that Vermeil was fitting.
Yeah, and we will forego the 3-dot status there as it's not a thing for us. But otherwise, I think we can just go with that.
Yeah. I like Vermeil just because it's the case of we're not doing what everyone else did. We're making sure we don't put our head down.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm just going to jot that down in the overview bit. So Veme.
So we have basically appointed ourselves the masquerade police.
Would that potentially be much like? Because like if we're declaring ourselves the masquerade police, is it? And we're sort of in a lawless like city. Is that sort of like we're declaring ourselves the?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We are the man.
It's basically
dog.
It's basically you guys going like in this domain. I mean, it might just be a simple case of going like, look, we've seen what the Second Inquisition can do. We want to get a lockdown on this domain because if vampires are like getting their fangs out and displaying their abilities everywhere, it's going to bring a world of shit. We're making sure that doesn't happen in our domain, so we're going to like police this shit.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a bit like we're the sheriff in the Wild West.
Yeah. At least like we draw a boundary. Like within these boundaries, like you keep your shit together because we will be on your ass.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like the idea that we're sort of declare ourselves to have legitimate authority. Like I could see ourselves like saying like, "Well, Camarilla's not gone, no, but we're still here or something."
I mean, in my eye, it's more the case of we either do this or they come for us.
Yeah.
Yep, so what I'm going to do is I'm adding in the shared backgrounds, so you get 3 dots of influence, especially in police and media, because you've got like your finger on the pulse of what's going on in your domain. I've put the status 3 in. Strictly that doesn't apply at the moment. However, if at a later point like more kindred start coming into the city and they start re-establishing like kindred society, and they're like, oh hell, there's like this coterie here who've like got a lockdown on the masquerade in their domain, then that status might start coming into play. You'll receive recognition for that, and that gives you 1 dot of chasseur for your domain.
And we're influential in the police.
Yeah, and the media.
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
Which is very useful for when shit happens.
now, strictly speaking, what you should have done is you should have spent your 4 points on your Chasse, Liane, and Portion. Then you have to put your own points into these backgrounds. But I'm just going to say like just pick one, and I'll give you those backgrounds because it speeds things up.
Yeah, and technically we can just do it exactly what the book tells us because we're not using the status, so we're not buying that. So we spend our 4 points on 1 chasse and 3 influence, and boom,
Okay.
rules followed.
Okay, guys. So your domain is effectively like a city block. So all of your shiz can be in like one sort of area that you're trying to keep a lockdown on.
And we just need to expand that to eventually include all of London.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And then we are in the war room, and we're like, good job, well done. Who's gonna be prince? And then then it's guns out.
It's good. It's good to think big, guys. It's good to think big.
I think we should pick one of us and just be like, yeah, they're the prince, and we just declare that, which will piss off a lot of people.
Well, the thing is, if you just declare it, at the minute, there's not really anyone to say, like, no, you're not.
Did prince?
Yeah.
It's like a vampire like 2 generations before us to come in and be like, no, just no.
Just you can't just like declare yourself the prince just because there's no one else here. Like, watch me.
Okay,
Yeah.
guys. So very last bit now. We're going to pick your discipline powers, and then we are done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the disciplines. If you've got that discipline, shout out, and we'll sort out what powers you've got. So has anyone got animalism? No, splendid. Anyone got auspex?
That's me.
Okay, how many dots have you got in auspex?
I have Auspex 1.
Okay, so that means that you can choose one of the following 2 like discipline powers and like note it down in your sheet. So you can either have heightened senses, which means it doesn't cost you anything. You add your auspex rating to all perception rolls, or you can go for sense the unseen. Your senses are attuned to dimensions beyond the mundane. You can make a wits plus auspex or resolve plus auspex roll to sense if there's any like supernatural stuff in your environment. So like if there's like a vampire nearby, like hidden, or there was like a werewolf walking by looking like a perfectly normal human, you'd be like, I'm getting a sense there's like something odd about that person. It wouldn't be like, ding, they're a werewolf, but you'd be like, there's something not right about them. I know there's something odd about them.
Oh, it's sense the unseen all the time.
Okay, so note down sense the unseen, like for the power for your auspex. Anyone else for auspex? Okay, so we'll move on. Anyone for celerity? Okay. Anyone for dominate?
Me.
Yay!
Okay, so how many dots have you guys got in dominate?
Just one.
2.
Okay, so if you've got 2 dots of dominate, that effectively means you can have 1 level 2 power, or you can have 2 level 1 powers.
Okay.
And obviously, Ambrose, you pick 1 level 1 power. So the level 1 powers of dominate are cloud memory. You utter the phrase forget, and you can make the dominated victim forget the current moments in the last few minutes. and that's a charisma dominate roll plus versus their wits plus resolve.
Okay.
There is the second level 1 power is compel. You can make eye contact with someone and give them a single command, no longer than a short sentence, and it must be something they can feasibly do. It's charisma plus dominate versus their intelligence plus resolve. If you succeed, they have to do what you've commanded them to do. So you could be like, get the fuck out of here. If they fail the roll, they have to get out.
I might go with the forgetting one. Kind
Okay.
of.
So put cloud memory as your power. Now for level 2 powers, Greg, in case you're interested in taking a single level 2 power, there is mesmerize. It works in a similar way to compel, but you can issue more complex commands to them. So you could say things like, oh, next time you see this person, give them this document, and they have to do it if you succeed at the roll. However, because this is a more advanced power, you have to make a rouse check when you use it because you're calling on your blood. The second level power is dementation. This is a subtle power. It requires nothing more than casual conversation. The victim finds himself increasingly agitated as their inner demons bubble to the surface, and that's manipulation plus dominate versus their composure plus intelligence. So after they've engaged in conversation with you, you can activate this power. For the duration of the scene, the user may attack a single individual each turn in a manipulate plus dominate roll to damage their willpower. So you're sort of breaking down their psyche.
Oof. This is interesting.
Someone who loses all their willpower from this power literally has a psychotic break because their mind just snaps. They can't handle what you're doing to them because you're bringing out all their dark impulses and their inner demons. And it lasts for a scene.
Okay.
So, like I
These
say,
these are all my options for now.
Yeah, so like I say, you can take 2 level 1 powers, or you could take 1 level 2 power.
And keep in mind, I didn't listen so intently that I could just know that if you talked about it already, but for dementation, you need to have auspex to take it. It's what they call an amalgam power.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's not your option.
bizarrely, you don't need to have auspex, you need to have obfuscate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I mixed it up. Yeah, because it's a Malkavian-ish thing.
So basically, for you, Greg, you could take either cloud memory and compel, or you could take mesmerize. It's up to you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You've got time to think about it. You don't have to make a decision absolutely now. So take time to think about it.
Cloud memory and compel was the first level options.
That's correct. Yeah.
I'll go with those.
Okay, splendid. Does anyone have fortitude?
Me.
Okay.
I have the book, so I already picked resilience and toughness.
Nice, splendid. Anyone have obfuscate?
Me.
Okay, how many dots have you got?
3.
Okay, so you can take. I'm sure you've worked it out. Level 1 powers cost 1 dot. Level 2 powers cost 2 dots. Level 3 powers cost 3 dots.
Yep.
So, level 1 powers, Cloak of Shadows. If you stay perfectly still, the user blends into the surroundings. It's free. It makes you difficult to spot as long as you're not moving and you're in shadows. The next level 1 power is Silence of Death. It's free and it completely silences your footsteps, your clothing doesn't rustle, minor collisions and other sounds that you would make personally just do not happen. You are deadly silent.
Silence of Death.
Lasts for a scene, so that's a level 1 power. The level 2 powers are Unseen Passage, so you can now move around and remain concealed. And that basically means you have to make a rouse check when you use that. As long as you emit no overpowering odours and no sounds louder than a whisper, the power automatically works, and it's only if someone draws attention to you or they're specifically looking to you will they even notice you. That lasts for a scene or until you're detected.
Ooh.
Or if you wanted to go for just one big mama jamma power, the level 3 powers are Ghost in the Machine. You can now transmit the effects of obfuscate through electronic media, because normally even if you're invisible you can be seen on CCTV cameras. With Ghost in the Machine it's not a thing. Or you could go for Mask of 1,000 Faces. You can make yourself appear as a nondescript person, so you're not invisible, but people would just be like, oh yeah, I saw that guy. Oh, what did he look like? Oh, well, he was medium height, medium length, brown hair, wearing clothes of some kind.
So I can take a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3.
You've got 3 dots, haven't you?
No, it's in stages. So you can pick 3 powers altogether,
Okay.
and you can pick 1 level 1, 1 level 2, and 1 level 3, or you could pick 2 level 1s, 1 level 2, or like in any combination up to like 1 each,
Yeah.
up to level 3.
Cool.
So
I think
And
the way I understood it is every time you take a dot into discipline, you pick a new power.
That's
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
from that-
I've probably mixed you up there. I do apologise.
Yeah. From that level or below, every time you take a dot.
I think I'll be grabbing Unseen Passage and Ghost in the Machine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ghost in the Machine is pretty sweet for CCTV London.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, does anyone have potence?
Yes, and
yes.
yeah. So Ambrose.
I don't know if I read something different, but it said that Scene Queen could give you 1 point of dominance or potence.
That's right, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So definitely going with potence. It might help with the punching.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Have you picked your power from the PDF, or do you need me to go through them?
I can pick from
Yeah.
PDF.
I've picked mine as well. I took Lethal Body, which is punching mortals to death.
Okay, splendid. Right, so anyone got presents?
I do.
Okay, how
Just
many?
1 point.
Okay, so you can pick a level 1 power. So the level 1 powers are or anyone in your presence finds your attention inexplicably drawn to them. Those listening to the Vampire Speak might suddenly agree on subjects where they once held a different viewpoint. This is free, you don't have to make a rouse check, so it's a level 1 power. You roll manipulation presence versus composure plus intelligence, and you get to add your presence rating to any skill roll involving persuasion or performance, as well as other charisma related rolls at the GM's discretion. So you are like Mr. Super Social if you have that power.
I'll go with that.
Okay. I know no one's got protein.
Sad face.
Here we go. Has anyone got blood sorcery? Okay, how many dots have you got in that?
Just 1.
Okay, so here are the level 1 powers you can take with that. You can take corrosive vitae, so you can adjust the properties of your blood. You can make it highly corrosive, so you have no additional skill rolls required. You concentrate for a turn and force your blood through an open, usually self-inflicted wound. You spill your blood on a non-living object to corrode and decompose it. You can make 1 or more rouse checks, so the more you call on your blood, the more corrosive the result will be. Or there is a taste of blood. By tasting a drop of blood, you can discern certain basic traits of the person it belonged to. This is free. You make a resolve plus blood sorcery roll. You have like a little taste of the blood. You make your resolve plus blood sorcery roll, and you can determine the resonance of the blood, the intensity, so like if it's human. You can also identify whether it belongs to a mortal, a ghoul, or other supernatural creature. You might not be able to lick some blood and go, oh, that's werewolf blood, but you'd be like, oh, that's some supernatural creature, and it's not a vampire.
Okay, I will go with a taste of blood.
Okay, splendid. Bum, 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 bum. And remind me, Johannes, how does it work in terms of like rituals you get with blood sorcery?
I think, and I will have to confirm this. I will do that in a second. But I think you get 1 ritual up to your level. So like 1 level 1 ritual is, I think, what you get. But I will confirm that.
Yeah, we'll go with that for now, though.
Yep.
Okay, so Greg, as well as that sort of power of blood sorcery, you also get like a magical ritual you can do, like a level 1 ritual. I'll tell you what those are. You can have blood walk, so that's an expansion of the taste of blood you've got. You do like a sort of rituals are a bit more involved, they take a bit more time, but if you do that, you have to use certain ingredients. You mix your blood with the subjects and you repeat an incantation. You make a ritual roll, and it allows you to find out much more details about the person who like donated the blood, so like their generation, if they're a vampire, who their sire is. If you get a critical success, You know if they've got blood bonds, stuff like that.
Okay.
There is clinging of the insect. After the ritual, you gain the ability to cling to walls like a spider. There is craft bloodstone. You like put your blood on a stone and it works as like a sort of magical tracking device. There is wake with evening's freshness. You perform this ritual before dawn, and it basically means that during the day, if anyone like messes with you, you don't have to make a roll to like go like, oh, it's daytime, I'm so sleepy, can I wake up? You're just like, boom, I'm awake, I'm good to go.
Oh.
Or the last one is ward versus ghouls, which is basically you can like ward various bits of your haven or whatever, and it becomes difficult for people who are ghouls to enter.
And I pick one of these.
Yep.
The bloodstone ones, what does that actually track?
Okay, so the bloodstone, the ingredients are a pebble of iron ore or a small magnet and a litre of blood from any source in a silver bowl. You spill your blood into the blood into the bowl, and then you recite a chant over it. The pebble absorbs the blood over 3 nights. You make a ritual roll at the end of the 3rd night. On a win, you attune your mind to the bloodstone. Now, wherever that stone is in future, you can unerringly sense the direction and distance of the stone, and it lasts until it's destroyed or a week has passed. So if you do this ritual, and then you're like, oh, I need to track where this person's going to be, you slip the bloodstone onto their person, and then at any point over the next week, you've just got to concentrate, and you're like, I can sense the stones 50 miles away, like in a northwesterly direction.
These are all really good.
I know, man.
How do I get more of these in the future?
You spend XP in game, like
Yeah,
you research more stuff.
Yeah, you spend
Cool,
XP to
okay.
buy up your blood sorcery.
I don't think I can decide this right now, but
That's
I'll get back to you.
fine, no problem at all. Okay, so let's check. Have we got any more? I think that's it for disciplines that are in the core book. Now, obviously, Johannes, I know you're going to have like no tenebration, so would you like to regale us with what sort of foulness your characters like cooking up?
Okay, so
That laugh.
yeah, Oblivion is what they call the good shit, and there's
It's fucking dank, that's what it is. It's horrible, and I don't mean that in terms of a system, because like systemically it's just like a discipline. There's nothing like wrong about it rules wise, but like just like what it represents is like horrible.
Yeah, and it erodes humanity when you use it.
Oh, what?
It erodes your humanity. You're literally like pulling the energy from the afterlife, like through the shadows of your own being and manifesting it in the world.
So how does that work mechanically?
It's a discipline like everything else. So there's like stuff in it, but the thing
I was
is,
gonna say, if you wouldn't mind, Johannes, would you mind just like breaking down what your abilities do, just to give people an idea?
I've got 3 Oblivion because why wouldn't I? There's quite a lot to Oblivion because they smashed together history lesson. They smashed necromancy from previous editions and obtenebration to a single discipline, but they put in enough powers so that it's the same thing, but you can specialize within it. So you have the sort of like more La Sombra ones, which I have picked, and then you have the more like death cult ritual bullshit for everyone else. So I have for level 1 I have Shadow Cloak, which is subtly applying the influence of Oblivion on ambient shadows. The user masks their appearance or seems more sinister and threatening. This is me doing the I am not a conjurer of cheap tricks Frodo Baggins. And it's a free power, and I get 2 extra dice for stealthy stuff, and also 2 extra dice to intimidate mortals, because I can do the underlit expression. So that's the level 1 power. The other option would have been like to be able to see into the underworld and ghosts. And my level 2 power is Arms of Ahriman, which is conjuring 2-dimensional shadows from existing shadows, and strangling people and their shadows with those shadows, and it's an interesting thing in that it's not something you resist so much with your body, because if I'm strangling your shadow, it's your muscles don't help shit. So conjuring shadow arms, and that is fuck. I just realized like I will have to redo that because it's an amalgam, and I did not remember that. So Arms of Iron Man, maybe in the future. So my third level power, however, is not an amalgam. It is Touch of Oblivion, which is channeling the power of Oblivion through your Vitae, and if you grasp a victim, the annihilating element of Oblivion itself runs through the vampire and into their prey like an electric current, except the effect is to physically wither the thing, because you pretty much you channel non-existence into someone. And effective on any part of the body, the touch shrinks and shortens muscles, snaps tendons, and makes bones brittle, effectively aging the affected part catastrophically. Its main use is in withering a limb, choking a throat, or blinding a pair of eyes. It does aggravated damage and also destroys the body parts. So it's a nasty.
Even on
It's
Kindred?
yes, it's the
Oh,
bad
Jesus.
touch. It's the bad touch, and that's the extent of my powers. And I will need to redo the thing because I forgot. I only have one potency, and I need two for Arms of Iron Man.
I will
Would-
never, ever, ever shake hands with you.
Yeah, because it might be like, is it this time? Yeah. So that's what Oblivion does for the more like La Sombra themed powers.
So,
Okay, excellent. Well, we've got most of the NPCs sort of plotted out. We've got some ideas of where your characters live, what resources they've got. We know that as a coterie, you've got like this small like district that is your domain, that you've set yourself up as like the masquerade police in this domain. You're trying to make sure you don't want any other kindred coming into your domain and like fucking things up for you, because like the Second Inquisition is like still out there. So I think that's pretty much it for character gen, guys. I hope everyone's happy with the characters. I've got like I'm quite happy for people to like flex it within like the first 3 sessions.
Yeah. And like we saw, I need to, because I just picked my things and I forgot the potence. So
should we just do like ambition in our own time, or like?
yeah, so I think if everyone has access to the PDF, I think maybe have a read about ambitions and desires, because we could spend quite a bit just talking about that, and I think it's beneficial to think about that as well in advance of actually like putting pen to paper on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so does anyone else have any sort of like further questions before we wrap up?
Generations. Have we talked about generation?
You will all be blood potency 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that goes into I believe neonate range.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm trying to remember, 12th to 13th generation.
I believe so. I'll just check.
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure you are, to be honest.
Yeah, so I think I will knock down the bad touch. So Greg, we can shake hands. I will.
Oh, sorry. Technically speaking, you guys should be. Let's see, child. Yeah, that's fine. Blood potency 1. Yeah, so you'll be 12th or 13th.
Does it make a difference gameplay-wise whether it's 12th or 13th, or?
Not as explicitly as before.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna rejig my stuff to have 2 potents and 2 oblivion instead of having 1 potent and 3 oblivion.
Yep.
So
So, like I said, what I'll do is I'll wrap up the recording for now.
Mhm.
Obviously, you've all got access to the Roll20. Feel free to pop into that whenever you wish. I would advise you all to pop in at some point and add pictures to your various NPCs you've got dotted about. At some point, I will probably go in and I'll like extend the map a bit so we can space everything out a little bit more, and I'll redraw the lines in. But let me just put some last lines in.
I think with that many characters in the journal bit, maybe a couple of subfolders would also be.
Yes, I'm going to do
Cleaner.
like a folder for like touchstones and one for like other NPCs and stuff like that. But like I said, that'll be something I'll do before the first session. I'll sort that out.
Of course.
But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That's definitely going to help. So is everyone reasonably happy with the characters you've got and sort of happy with the direction the coterie is taking? I'm going to suggest, 'cause I'm quite happy to talk to you guys about this, I'm going to suggest as a first session, because I want it to be to like ease us in, I'm going to suggest perhaps the first session could involve like a very young vampire who's been potentially causing like trouble in your domain, and you guys are trying to sort of like track him down and sort of find out what's going on.
yeah, and contain the potential breaches.
Exactly. So like
Yeah.
so some young like 14th gen or like 13th gen like anarch or whatever who's like who like who's like probably been a vampire for about 3 weeks and thinks he's like the shit.
Yeah, Johnny Anarch.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'll be a nice sort of like ease in. You know, there'll be a few rolls in there, give you guys a chance and me a chance to get used to like your powers and what you can do and stuff like that. Just as like a nice sort of easy lead in for the first session. Does that sound alright for everybody?
Yep, that sounds fine. I just imagine the session ending with everything on fire.
Yeah, that is a
Standard.
yes.
I mean,
Now that London has been destroyed, you all move to another city.
to be fair, it didn't happen in session 0, which is already an achievement.
Yeah, actually-
you're not wrong.
Yeah, we're gonna destroy London in the first session, and this is actually Cardiff.
All right, Necro Prince, calm down. Okay, well, I'm obviously happy to chat for a bit after the recording, but I'm going to end the recording here. So thanks to Greg, Ed, Johannes, and Ambrose for bearing with me while we went through this character Jennings. I appreciate it's a little bit involved because of the nature of the game. Thanks to anyone who's watching this. Hopefully this has given you some sort of insight into a session 0 for 5th edition of Vampire the Masquerade. Hopefully we'll see you for the first session in a couple of weeks' time. Take care.